to Interdimensional Gummy Bear Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people and hopes to stumble across some unexpected insights and wisdom. We have one of our good friends, and for your second time back on the podcast, Austin Price with Revive and Thrive. And Austin has some exciting updates and news and some new things he wants to talk about. So we decided to come on here and have some fun again today.
All right, let's do it. Let's jump on
sir.
in.
Yeah, so tell us what you got going on,
So
bro.
I don't know, has it been 3 or 4 weeks maybe?
Yeah, it hasn't been too long.
I mean, it's right when we were opening, I think, was kind of the deal, So I was like, wow, let's go on. Let's just, a month later, let's see what, let's check in here.
Yeah.
I had some kind of cool thoughts, some cool ideas that we can maybe jump into.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what I was kind of thinking is like, we talked, last time we talked about Revive and Thrive, like my history, kind of those kind of things. And I was thinking about we kind of have like a cool, fun topic of like, I was looking at some of the other podcasts that we've had and what those topics were, and they all kind of run. We're kind of talking about a lot of the same things, and as they can relate to different people that are listening. It's like, oh, he said, after our last podcast, it was like, someone was like, man, what you said there, that really helped me there. And I didn't even think about it, right?
Sure.
So it's like, let's just jump in there, and I'll try to talk about some of my experiences that I've had in the last month. And then I was going to kind of look to you as almost like a mentor in it.
Sure.
So, and then when I look at it is like, so we're born pure, right? And I look at it as we're kind of all walking each other home, and we end pure. And so, in doing so, we have to have someone like, I have a 1-year-old kid. I'm a new father, new business owner. I look to someone like yourself that has been there, right? And so like I can learn from you. So it's like this last month has been stressful.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly so. I mean, I expected it to be, but I don't know that with so much newness.
Sure.
Everything's building systems, checklists, training staff on things I don't even know how to do.
That's right.
So it's very humbling. I was like, I didn't know how to be a business owner, know how to like deal
There's
with
no
customers.
book.
There's no book.
There's no real book for what you're trying to do,
It's totally new.
Yeah.
I mean, which is awesome because like it's a creative thing, and,
That's right.
but then there's new decisions every day,
Yeah.
all day, and so it was like what I was doing and creating a space for people to find peace, to find a revive.
You were
and thrive.
losing yours.
I literally fell into the trap of the thing, and I was stressing myself out so much. And it was going on to people around me. It still is. I'm seeing it. People around I can see it in their eyes. They're like scared to ask me a question.
That's right.
I can see it.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I'm trying to get
And it's devastating to you because you're like, man, I do not want to have to, because it's almost like that's just another thing I have to rebuild. Is there morale,
right. And then I take that on me. And what I started doing was like, I can't handle it. I got to do this, and this before this, and I got to wake up at this time to get this done. And it just became this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about earlier before we got on here, is like, I didn't even know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I can't even.
Well, you had to take your own medicine.
Yeah.
I've been in that situation
Holy
several
moly.
times because it's like the same thing you're promoting a lot of times is the thing that you realize you're focused on getting other people to that point. It's like, am I doing the cold plunge? Like, where's my routine and my time in the salt room? And,
You nailed it. I mean, I'm a pretty avid runner. I mean, running's my meditational, that's my hard thing, my discipline thing. All of a sudden, I don't have enough time to run.
That's right.
I don't have enough time to do this. All these thoughts I'm telling myself is like, oh, wait a minute, but I got to get up at 4 to do this to get the baby. And then but what I was doing is my stress was justifying all of my actions. And all of a sudden now I'm not running. I'm not doing the cold plunge. I'm not doing the sauna.
That's right.
It's like, whoa, I'm losing.
That's right.
I'm losing myself. I was losing my sense of spirituality,
Sure.
my wholeness, and this happened
Quick.
fast.
Yeah.
And so I think like what I wanted to come on here to say is like, holy, like I just want to be vulnerable about it, and and also like not is to come off as like this big complaint kind of thing,
Sure.
but also someone out there might go, oh wow.
Well,
me
these are
too.
real
I feel like
traps.
we can talk about how to work through that, what you've learned, what I am learning, like what works for me,
That's
and then
right.
maybe someone out there will be like, oh shit, okay.
That's
I'm
right.
going to do that too. Like,
And there's a simple way to look at this, and there's been tons of books and different things on this. And I don't know if you've heard of the book, How to Un-F Yourself.
no.
Yeah. Well, the premise of it in a lot of other books, but he was just kind of like more vulgar about it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Is that problems are the nature of life, and we have this weird thing that we do psychologically where we feel like if we can just get over this problem, and then everything will be better. Yeah. And what it's just the mindset is wrong. But the idea is you have to embrace problems as life and realize that they are actually opportunities. And I'm definitely not speaking to this as if I'm speaking this more from my personal experience, but I like to use resources. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that every problem is an opportunity. And when you're in a position where you have a vision and you're trying to create infrastructure and a space for people to have and share in some peace that you found, the frustrating part is that let's say you've climbed up a ladder in a sense and gained a perspective and a vision over the way life can be and a peace that you can attain. And because you went from a place of high anxiety and stress and poor living, and you found this thing that you want to share. And so, but you got to realize the population that we're dealing with hasn't had that experience and that perspective that you are dying to share. Mm-hmm. There's layers and layers and layers in time, and they have to have internalized intuitive experiences to accept and believe in the same way you did. Mm-hmm. So you could say the perfect thing to the person, and that same person in two different time frames, one time they hear you and the other time they're listening. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. And so you never know when that'll happen, but also the expectations and what you know the vision is clear. Mm-hmm. But how do you put that into other people's minds and hearts, most importantly? And it's this balance. What I've learned is, from that standpoint of the head, is you have to put yourself first, and in prioritizing and giving yourself the first bit, which means for me, I train in the morning. I do the cold plunge every day. I do the same warm up that I prescribe, the thermogenesis and the rebounding and the club swinging, and I practice everything that I'm preaching. More importantly, because I hit points just like you, where I stopped. I was literally not even doing. I stopped doing the stuff because everybody else's needs. Mm-hmm. You're reacting to all these new things, and then all these other people's anxiety related to this problem and that problem, and we're sharing this all, transferring it back and forth, right?
Totally.
So I'm like, it's the big thing is realizing that you have to condition and train the people around you to understand what your needs are too. And so part of that is like me saying, I'm not taking any business. I don't deal with business until I'm done with our morning session. But what happens is now I have 10 times more of me to give. And when I'm there, I'm 100% there, and I'm available, and I can think. But then you think of micro decisions, and you think about your capacity to make decisions and how much energy it's actually burning. And so one thing that you see a lot of startup people do, you see it sometimes with the extreme stuff in like Silicon Valley and stuff, but I've kind of picked up a thing here or there where, like, for instance, like Mark Zuckerberg only has like two shirts that he wears, or like two pairs of pants. So the whole concept is that if you can limit your decision making to where you literally have to be so careful about what you let your mind contemplate, and make sure that you're not deciding on things I don't need to decide on something 2 weeks before the decision needs to be made. Mm-hmm. You have to be really think of it as your energy and your mind and your thinking and your body. It's all like a gas tank. So once you burn it down, there's things you can do to kind of boost it up, but you can't really refill until you go home and go to sleep and restart. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that the decisions you make first thing in the morning, the things that you allow yourself to react to first thing in the morning, yada, yada, yada. So it all comes back to the simple basics of small disciplines that you, and then also creating boundaries. But then you create space for people, but it has to be in the context of what the timing that you found to be the best. And for the most part, what works well for a lot of people is they try to make the first hour of their day to where they have to do zero thinking whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So no decisions. So from everything can be as routine and thoughtless as possible, to where from the brushing the teeth to the eating to the baby stuff and to everything that has its place in a way where it's all easy to anticipate, easy to accomplish, very boring, dull, very low processing.
I like to set my clothes out the night before, so I don't even have to think about what I'm wearing.
Yeah,
right.
It's huge. Those kind of things. I think like Nick Bear is forward thinking, backward planning.
That's
you
right.
know, it's like it's all just limiting those choices. Putting out your drink before my run the night before. Just like those little things.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to get that drink. I'm not. It's what I started doing was abandoning that hour. I was waking up trying to put together people's schedules and stuff at 4:30, and it's like trying to make choices. And you're exactly right. Like when I'm in a flow state in my running and my discipline, it's like I'm putting my shoes on and my shorts in the morning, and I'm not even.
You don't even know what
I'm
you're
not
doing.
even go. I mean, when my alarm goes off, I a lot of times I'm just like. There's that resistance of I've got to wake up isn't there.
You
like
said
it's not as much there. It's like I'm just doing it, and it's so beautiful. And I'll mention like someone like a Ram Dass will say like tending to the business. Like the beautiful things are when I just tend to the business. I'm just calm, but then all of a sudden the choices, the decisions, and then that's when it's like if I'm doing that first thing, I haven't gotten into a space to where I can even. I'm going right from the minute I wake up to. And this happened to me a few days ago. Like I woke up and I walked into the kitchen and it was like, holy, what's going on? Like a panic attack.
Well, it's almost impending doom that you're like, I don't know what the thing I'm anxious about is. I feel like there's something I'm supposed to worry about, but I can't think of what it is.
That's what happened to me just a couple days ago, and it was a buildup. It was a buildup of like I woke up with that energy for too long. It's like, and then I actually kind of got caught up a little bit, but the energy was still there, and I didn't even have anything to attach it to.
Yeah,
like I just was just there.
Yeah,
it was weird actually. It kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was like.
What's
going on here?
I'm very familiar with that.
And a lot of this too is like a buildup over a month of it's abandoning the little things. Like I think last time we talked about walking past the dishes in the sink, right? And it's like all of a sudden, like my stress will justify not doing that.
That's right.
Which all of a sudden I know is like next time I walk past those dishes, I'm going to be just as stressed or not even more stressed.
That's right.
And I started abandoning those little things.
Sure.
And they kept building and they kept building. And so it's like had to step back here in the last week and a half or so, and and say like, whoa.
Yeah.
I've started going back. I'm in the sauna, getting quiet time, getting stillness, not doing things like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the morning, like getting back into like the running, like picking my discipline, my running schedule, and staying disciplined with it, and knowing from my past experiences that'll all take, and it has. It started to, and so I started like, man, I'm gonna come on the podcast. Let's talk about how I lost my spirituality, how I lost my purpose in the thing I was trying to create.
Sure, and I think you're supposed to.
I agree. I think it's like it's there.
It's
for
like
me
humbling. You got to get humbled constantly.
Yeah.
And as soon as you think you have it figured out, and then that's whenever you end up in it's life is cycles. Yeah. And I think the more we embrace those cycles, and also kind of just like emotion, sometimes I feel like what's more successful for most people in emotional regulation is actually just naming what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So just to be saying like, as soon as I feel frustration, or as soon as I feel angry or bitter or this or that, like if you can kind of keep your plate pretty clear, and that's why I said that morning routine is important, because it's really more about like gaining some clarity and then going ahead and doing something to activate your body that before everything gets kind of put in your face. And then that way that you're able to have a neutral plate, and when that first bit comes on, you can just be like, man, I'm feeling some anxiety right now, and go ahead and claim it. And I think that's, even if you're trying to be really optimistic, you got to be realistic. And I was a consummate optimist, so
that was
right.
Yeah.
And so, but also, I've learned over time that there's a middle that you got to really focus on and get into. And the thing is, our perspectives, just like, you know, the people we're dealing with and helping, and just like us, they're always so limited, and it's not reality. It's really just our perspective. And I think the more we realize that it's never actually the truth, it's always, we have to get outside of, and we can't confirm our own bias. Like, we got to understand when we get stuck in the loop, it's because that whole thing of, like you said earlier about you feel the stress, and then now you're starting to confirm the poor actions or behaviors or things that you let fall off because of the things you're doing to mitigate the stress, which are actually creating more stress.
Right.
And I've watched many men that I've worked with, because I always try to create a safe haven for guys that are in bad times. Mm-hmm. And I've always I didn't even really ask for it. It's just kind of happened, where if like a friend of mine's going through a divorce, or if there's just something that they're really struggling with, those are the guys that have always just kind of showed up at my doorstep, mm-hmm. and just didn't know where else to turn type thing. And I'm sitting here like, God, am I ready for this type of responsibility? You know, but also once I kind of realized the pattern, and I'm like, I guess this is it, you know, and I need to really make sure that I'm doing my due diligence, and I'm figuring these things out, because I can't afford to give somebody the wrong direction and be responsible for them maybe getting in a worse position or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And that's what forced me into really like Wim Hof was mm-hmm. probably one of the biggest things that helped me break through at kind of a similar point where you're at, where I wasn't managing my energy well, and I was reacting too much. And Ido Portal is another great resource. And I'm spending more time speaking about my resources and sources, because I feel like people need to realize, like, most of these things, they started with the man or the thing, and then now just me going through little periods of obsession, trying to learn about this person and what makes them who they are and how they think. And he says, whatever you react to, you're a slave to. And I think that's the idea, is nobody wants to be a slave. We all crave sovereignty and free choice over our lives and our actions and behaviors. And I think that we have to be very conscious about, first off, being realistic about what we're feeling, but then also being very realistic about what we're reacting to, mm-hmm. and realize that that's actually not good or healthy, even if the person that we care about, that's kind of almost unconsciously pulling us into that reaction, it's like, no, I care about you, and I want to attend to everything that you have to deal with, and be a resource for you. But it's got to be during this time or in these days, and it forces you to be more disciplined to your time and schedule, and it forces you to, because when you're starting up, come one, come all, doors open, everybody walks in, come on, we just need you in here.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't take long, hopefully, that you really have to start building some barriers and constraints to mm-hmm. protect the relationships, and to make sure that while you're doing this consult with these new people and showing them what's up, you don't have a member just run up and stand next to you and say, hey, what's going on? All of a sudden, like, guess what? What happened at home today? And then these people, then that's the stuff that makes you stressed out, mm-hmm. because now you're like, oh crap, I'm having to like keep this going. And then this random thing happened. And then now my employee just walked up and asked me for some question, and like, he has no idea what's going on. But that's the nature of, okay, now whenever I can get free of this chaos, I can't let this happen again. All right, employee, next time, this is what's going on. This is how we need to handle that. If you have an issue, And then the quicker you can just put that into policy, job descriptions, documented protocols, flowcharts, algorithms. Yeah. That way, every problem and every time you hit a point of stress, it actually is an opportunity, because it gives you the chance to say, like, this is going to happen again and again and again if I don't do something to get in between it. So now you become more of like this system orchestrator, mm-hmm. and not even the fact that you can even now empower your employees, or even have a person you delegate as kind of a SOP person, or mm-hmm. like a person, standard operating procedures, and And just think of like those basic things as your access to step back. And the more you could pull yourself back, you get a broader perspective.
Yep.
It's kind of like the Navy SEALs, and they're all in line and they're headed down, they're looking down their sights. The problem is that they don't know what each other's doing, right? So you got to be able to be that leader in that line that drops the sight down, takes a step back, and can see the whole team.
Yep.
And you can see what the threats are on either flank. And you can see off in the distance and keep your eyes clear in front. Because if you're looking behind, that's not your job, right? But you need somebody. Every ship needs an anchor and a sail, right? So you have to have people that can almost pull you back and know that's kind of their role. And no, they're not dragging like crazy. Like they still have to be able to flow. And I've had some difficulty and resistance with people that almost embrace the anchor. Like the anchor is more powerful than the sail.
Yeah.
And so we got to be able to it's a repetitive conversations. Batchy, how many times have me and you in these, like, he's been witness to all this.
Yeah.
First row, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And what you said with the anchor and sail is spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. I agree with you 100%. It's been, actually, today marks my 7-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
In your life. Yeah.
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 That's huge. That's a stint. I mean,
Yeah.
in today's world, that's
For
a
sure.
stint, dude. That's a
Yeah.
that's a like
7 years.
7 years.
So I've seen a lot. I've learned a lot,
Yeah.
and very fortunate to be here and be in this position. But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And when Batchy came in, we've been in business for 10 years. And when he came in, I was 3 years in. And it was really the time where I kind of had successfully pulled myself back enough and started slowly getting a captain that could actually sit behind the wheel, because that's actually, a visionary isn't driving the ship either, because you actually need to be on the bow in front of it. And you need to be able to truly access and see every aspect of the place, right? And so you have to get yourself to a spot where you have the capacity to do that. And you can monitor everything that's going on, right? But part of that is too, and you know, and we've dealt with this a lot especially when you're in power and leadership, it's obviously people, it's not always a people problem. A lot of times it's always assume it's a leadership issue, and then it's a communication issue twice, you know, because that's me saying that no matter what you messed up, the first time we're going to sit down and it's my fault because I must have not led you to the right place or communicated the right expectations. And so now it's this whole thing of backtracking and let's go ahead and talk this out. And the thing is, you have to have people that understand it is a dialogue. And also, like if somebody's a manager, you're not paying a manager for you to have to ask them for information. You need them to provide you with certain important information at certain times. And you need to make sure that that everybody's aware of that, because I've had a lot of I've went in circles over time too with certain people, managers, where it's like, look, these are the clear things, that information that I need, and this is kind of how often I need it. Now from there, whatever's going on, I need to be able to get back to that place where I'm present and I'm available for the whole. And so if I don't ask you for that information, and then now I get back to where I can stop and reflect, and I realize that now I got to go ask you, well, now you're not available for the thing that you need to do. You know, now it's this constant backtrack of having to, essentially now you're asking your managers for information that you really need them to be accountable for giving you on a certain time frame to give you the freedom to be the visionary and to continue to look forward. And so that's kind of there's no easy path, but I feel like the path that, and why it's a struggle for a lot of people, and when I've not done well and when I've done well, you're never going to find you don't need to be great at hiring the right person. You need to be great at getting rid of the wrong people. And I know that's easier said than done, and I sound like a hard ass saying it because I could say I've let I give a lot of grace. I believe in that. Because I also think once even people that if stolen from you, honestly, like there's a path to redemption. There's always a path to redemption. And sometimes if people, that's when you could actually see a person wake up. And I've had a couple cases where I've given grace and I've seen it work out wonderful, where the person was like, wow, you didn't have to do that. I pretty much thought I screwed myself there, and they really appreciate it and don't want to lose it. Mm-hmm. But then there's also, you can't be naive. Mm-hmm. And there's times where you just got to know that your responsibility is the culture. And the culture is the thing that allows Revive and Thrive to thrive perpetually. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that if you died tomorrow, the culture and the people, because the culture is the summation of its parts. You're the leader of the culture, but also if you're not there, it's still the same culture. Mm-hmm. And that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
But that's the idea. And until you can be in that position of knowing you have some influence on that thermostat, then you're going to feel that feeling of anxiety that you don't even know why. Mm-hmm. But it's just because you're not as present as you need to be, and that in that sense there might be some stuff going on, and I just can't see it because I'm not.
I kept missing things. That's what kept happening. I just kept missing, and I take it on myself, like beat myself up, like and I was too. I couldn't step back and see the bigger picture. For the leading up to the business, it was all bigger picture. It was we planned everything to the T for the future, and so we're there. And now it's like, oh shit! Now it's a whole nother phase and starting out
and
here.
There'll be another,
and there'll be another. But it's like, all right, now we've got to step back. Remember, the culture thing's huge, and like something my girlfriend had told me is like, I was trying to curate this. I want this thing. I want it to be like this, and she's like, you need to go be in the community. Mm-hmm. You need to go be don't try to go start a running club. Go be in a running club. Yeah. And then after a few weeks, say like, hey, do you guys want to do a sauna and cold plunge after a run? Like that's community. Right. Don't try to go start something that other people are doing and try this. Just go be in it. What is be out there? Get into some outreach. Get in here. Do this. Do that. And then it'll all take care of itself. Quit trying to make this thing.
Your
happen.
fiance said that?
Yeah. Quit trying to make this thing happen.
That's awesome.
And then you know what? I was in a stressful enough place where I almost got defensive to that. Sure. I'm not doing. I am making. But that's and for a while I was getting really defensive over everything. That was my big thing. Is because in my mind I'm like I got to do it all.
Sure.
I got to do it all. But what was happening is I was trying to do everything. Back to your thing, and I didn't know how to delegate. I still am learning how to delegate. I'm trying to learn how to delegate something. Because I'm learning. I don't even know how to do it. So this new team, new thing, we've got an amazing team, a phenomenal team. And so it's like, all right, now how can I use this team? Yeah. I don't know how. I don't really know how yet because we're building. Yeah. And so being honest with them and saying guys, I'm trying, we're all learning here. Yeah. The good thing is our whole team's on the mission. They're all about it. They're in there doing saunas. They're in there doing cold plunges. They're more centered than I am most of the time because they're in it. And I kind of see that, and I'm coming with my energy. My employees are more centered than me. It's right. Okay.
Well, and that's the point too.
Cool. It's kind of neat.
It is because you actually realize that you have to lean on people, and so the same people that you help kind of get out of a dark place. Well, guess what? You need them to help pull you out of dark places too.
Totally.
And also, I believe in transparency, and I do feel like the highest form of courage is vulnerability, especially when you're saying because I want to do better, and I'm not perfect, and I think that's such an important key to growth and healing, and that's why and also, just like I said, naming that emotion, it's kind of like a confession. Because you're actually saying you're in the moment. You have to get past your ego to kind of do that effectively. Because your ego is saying I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine now. Yeah. What are you talking about? And so even me now, I try to be careful. I just don't want to be fake. Yeah. And I know that anything that a persona is the most draining thing there is. And so another part of the energy conservation is really, and why I feel like too, your time to get to know yourself, because I think we know ourselves just because even when we've had big revelations and kind of stuff going on in our life, we have the story, but then it's like that story in itself can kind of limit us letting the story be written and us witnessing it, and it may be a more beautiful story.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key, is just really even doing what you're doing, like us kind of talking, because I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I know this is also something that I've been through, just maybe a couple more cycles of kind of thinking I got it figured out, and then kind of getting behind and then catching up. In certain times where things I felt like found their way, it may have not been on my timing, right? And like the thing that I really, the vision I had and the thing I knew could happen, it happened, but it just didn't happen as soon as I wanted it to, or it happened in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it literally just takes stepping back and looking at what outcome exactly am I seeking here, and stop focusing on how you feel as much about things. And then if you really get back to that outcome, you'll realize that more times than not, you're a lot closer to the mark than you realize, and it's not quite as bad as you think it is. It's just compounding factors, you know, and it could take a bad morning with the baby, and then maybe, you know, you and the wife may not feel as connected just because of whatever stress is going on, and then, you know, you run across somebody that flips you off on the interstate, and it's just like, shit, like I was doing really good yesterday, and now,
that didn't bother me.
I feel like I'm really about to backslide here. And for me, and you know, that's the biggest thing, is I think honest reflection, and the quicker you can get to it, the less damage that happens along the way. And I've also tried to be really clear, like when I'm really frustrated in terms of where I've communicated my expectations, and we've agreed upon something happening on a certain time frame, and there's agreement, and I know I've went the extra mile to almost like now I even try to simplify everything to where I'm like, I truly, for you to win, like, and for what I need, if I'm paying you to do X, Y, and Z, is just like A, B, C. And if those are done, then I'm happy. And anything outside of that, how you do it, and anything else you can do to add value, like, thank you for that. And I'm super grateful for that. But I don't expect it from you. I mean, I really hope at some point that, and I feel like anybody that becomes self-driven, because you're trying to, just like with us in everything, we need to improve our image of ourselves, our subconscious self. And that's what makes those mundane disciplines so important, because what happens is now when you get on that drive home at the end of the day and you realize that you hit your marks that nobody know about even, that's when you're like, yeah, I feel good. And the fact, even for instance, like the run, well, it's like, well, I only had 20, I normally give myself an hour, but this happened, and I only had like 20 minutes. Well, then run for 5 minutes. Yeah. And then literally do whatever, but don't not do it, you know? And so I think sometimes when things break our routine, we just think of it in a way where it's like, well, there's still, you might get less of whatever it was, but just like focus on just showing up.
Because you're not resisting. Because I think it was once that starts, and that's what was happening to me, the resistance just, it didn't stop. And I know some people are like, oh, you know, it's like I lose momentum, and
it's discouraging.
It's like, you know, like momentum of like, I'm just putting on the shoes, I'm just putting on my shorts, and I'm out the door. Now I'm waking. It's like it starts with like, and I don't mean to like fall into like some perfectionist where everything's got to be, and it's like it's where's that middle path in that, you know? I mean, example, like last night, I'm sitting there and I'm like, shit, I don't have any shirts for the podcast tomorrow, you know? And like, because last time, I was going to bring some, and so I was like, well, damn it, Austin, you should have had that. You should have gotten that done, you know? And luckily I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to wake up at 4 tomorrow. I started getting into solution mode, right? And I kind of like, all right, we can do this. And like, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I went, got up this morning, did my run, drove to the business. And so instead I said, wait, I can go to the business and get the shirts and do a cold plunge. I started seeing like how like I could play with the brain
That's
and
right.
say like, oh, now I'm going to go get the cold plunge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to happen to get the shirt. It's like,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I'm doing that, getting the shirts. Now I'm doing something. I'm not beating myself up for not doing it. I'm back
Yeah.
at my house. I actually got the shirts, cold plunge, run, dog walked, breakfast cooked, and got the baby up and felt incredible. And was with the baby from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
That's right.
And while Samantha was able to have some time, and I felt so good. And
That's
it wasn't
right.
like that I didn't do this or this, and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And it was like I spent 2 hours and then I came here.
Yeah.
And it's a difference in like last night of saying, beating myself up and going to bed, and then just waking up and maybe even skipping it was happening previously.
That's right.
And luckily about a week and a half ago, so I was like, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
And last night I was able to catch it.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it after about 2 or 3 FUs to myself, but I caught it.
Yeah.
And then I was able to switch it. And I
That's
think it's just seeing that.
Well, sometimes too, once you get about 3 or 4 FUs in, you feel like, man, once you realize you caught yourself, you realize how like it feels like, man, I've really backslid and it's going to take me a lot of effort to get back to neutral. And it's really not that way. Because as soon as you do you get one little positive shift, you're like, oh yeah, it's just the path. Like I'm there. And that's why a lot of times with these mindless kind of routines and disciplines, especially early in the morning, you don't want to think, because everybody is their worst self first thing in the morning. Yeah. Everybody.
Pessimistic. I don't know how to explain it. I've talked about this before. I don't know
everybody
where it comes from.
is the worst self. And dude, for me, this has always been, it's not that, and not to be disrespectful, because it's not like mice in a lab, but I've always looked at it as a study. So I've studied people and tried my best to even think about my staff, and I've sampled and tried different things, and especially when we were small and nimble, and tried to vet certain concepts and ideas I would have that were not conventional out in a smaller experiment. Before you kind of want to scale that out. Yeah. And so I've tried all kinds of things to motivate people and to build teamwork and camaraderie, and the goal of building a self-managing system where I don't believe in the idea of hierarchy and the fact that you need a boss to tell you what to do. I feel like you need a good organization, to me, provides autonomy, and each part has a clear path and direction, and they're able to function and provide and continue to do what they need to do without anybody telling them what to do all the time. And that sounds great in theory, but in practice, you're dealing with an entire culture that from school on that was built to institutionalize people to be factory workers and to be compliant sheep, you know? And so we're still to this day utilizing the same infrastructure and systems, and the culture still, we're all institutionalized. We always think that's just something that happens to the prisoners. I'm like, no, it's happening to all of us
I was
every
telling
day.
these guys earlier, before, I felt in some ways that ever since I hiked the trail, that I've walked slowly backwards.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that that's going to just, like, I can see it.
I feel that way all the
I
time.
can feel that.
Because when I hit nature, I'm like, okay, this is
it,
neutral. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you get back and you're just like, for me, there's almost this thing in me that's like, man, I need to get back to nature,
it's
because
so much stimulation. It's like we are in so, and I don't know, like, if you want to label it good or bad or any of that. It's just like we're so much stimulation that to be present can be so difficult now.
Right.
I mean, it takes effort. I mean, I think that's the part that, like, I don't want it to take effort, because when you're in nature, it doesn't. You're there. But in today's world, it takes effort. It takes discipline to.
And your business is literally bringing nature, the elements of nature into
this. Like, that's where the whole idea.
Modern
like, we
lifestyle.
don't have to go drive 3 hours out, and we're in Gulfport, Mississippi. We don't have we're not Nashville, North Carolina, and have mountains and this and that. It's like, but we got to have something here, some kind of like natural therapies that can give us that, like, oh wait. Okay. Like, it's, it's okay. Yeah. I am. And like, that's the whole, like, sensory deprivation tank for all of those kind of things. Like, oh man, like, it's just so much sensory, and the messages that come at are do this, do this, do this, do this. Or, I mean, when, like, I don't like selling stuff a lot of times, because I feel like I'm trying to, I'm in the system. I'm trying to do Instagram this, and like, it feels, even though my underlying is I want to bring this to people, and like, if I can tap into that, it'll help. But I get into this, I'm like, wait a minute, am I doing all this
Well, here's the
stuff.
idea behind guys like us.
It's like,
We would give it all away because it's not really about anything other than what we're trying to accomplish. But obviously, a business has to pay bills. A business has to cover payroll. A business has to pay for health insurance and liability and taxes and this and that and the other. And so, like, you still have to check those boxes. And so you can't really function to like in the full capacity because, but also people do not value things they don't pay for. They don't, and they never will. And I can't even tell you how many. Because to me, it's all a practice, and I enjoy having a canvas paint on. So if a person has a problem, I spent a long time, and I still to this day am interested in that problem because I know whatever is the pattern related to that problem is going to be a thing, and something you can really learn and will apply to other people in other situations. But then that's kind of the idea is that you can get to where people expect you to do that, but what you do and what you're doing is very valuable. In that it is something that, and a part of this process is you have to have every investment, and I've learned this from very smart developers that really do like billions and millions in business. You can't do a business deal without your partner having skin in the game. So that means that even though they're providing sweat equity or they're providing X, Y, and Z, that if they don't have cash investment, something to lose, then they'll never have the perspective to honor the thing you're doing and the other partners doing. Money does matter. Currency is, and it's like I said, it's something that is a necessary part of our infrastructure and the life and the thing we're doing. And so unfortunately, even people that do not really care about money that much still have a family that they have to support and protect and feed. And so it is important to a certain extent. And so that's always going to be one of those kind of necessary evils that we still have to confront. And we still have to create smart, efficient business models that then, in a sense, can check those boxes before we can really be the givers and the sharers and there's a lot of anthropologic research that shows that as people acquire wealth, they become less generous as a whole on average. But this is stuff I used to study before I got into all this. Like I really spent time digging and learning and looking at anthropology and the study of humans and behavior and all these different things. And because I feel like once you realize that we're all subjected to certain things and ways of thinking and traps, the more you understand about where you came from and what typically, that's why I love thinking about it from an ancestral standpoint and what kind of life did our ancestors live and what were our bodies actually meant to do and compared to what we do now. And you look, and that's a lot of our health disparities is that we're really living a life that we're not designed to live.
I was talking to my brother about that. I think it was, or it might have been Samantha. It's like I was reading something like plastic was invented 100 years ago. Like 100 years ago, one lifetime ago.
Yeah.
I'm using that as an example to show like the advancement we've had in 100 years. Our brains and our bodies have not evolved with the advancement that stimulation has around us.
Right.
I mean, it's so far advanced that I feel like the stress that I feel or I can see in the world is like everyone is trying to keep up. It's trying to keep up with this stimulation that we haven't evolved to.
Exactly.
And so
and there's a lot of forces at play, invisible stresses.
Yeah. And I can go I should be able to handle this. I should be able to be, and that can be a trap. And so it's like how can I handle it?
Yeah.
And I should be able to because it's not going to, I think too, is I've signed up for this world, signed up for this responsibility for this business. I've signed up for this job as a father. I've signed up this is it. This is what I'm here for.
Sure.
So to want it to be different, to want it to be any other way is to now to find the glide, so to speak, as we talked about last time. It's in this chaos, the chaos isn't going away.
That's right.
The cars aren't getting any slower. The planes aren't, it's not going to slow down. How can I slow down? How can I get to where, my tattoo of the gliding pelican, when it hits that glide, man, Like it is moving and still at the same time.
That's right.
And that is like what I lost touch. Like I think it's on our Facebook description on Revive and Thrive. Is like our mission is founded in the curiosity of what is possible when our mental and physical align. And I lost touch with. I was all focused on outcomes. Like this has got to happen. It's like no, the purpose is that middle ground. The outcomes are out of my control. They're in God, universe, whatever you believe in. I was trying to control everything, and that's back to that surrender. And I think you have some other podcasts on that. It's like I was just trying to control everything.
And you can't lose it because people a lot of times get dismissive because their beliefs, but it is Jesus take the wheel, and you have. And the way I've learned too is that you're trying to curate moments, and so really, for instance, just like a hike or that like going on seeing those waterfalls. You're really doing like a couple hours of really hard stuff that's not all that fun, but to get to a moment, and you might only hang out for 15, 20 minutes there until you saw what you need to see. And then you're thinking about now so the moment, sometimes it might be a couple seconds of you having a motion of awe or gratitude or just a moment of clarity where you're like, man, that's cool, that happened, or whatever. And I think our brains are pre-wired for negativity because that's survival. Positive ain't helping you stay alive. You know, in
that's true.
In most of humans' existence, you have to act well to eat and survive today, and that's literally the nature of our wiring. It's built off of the idea, and there's still places all over the world where war zones and different things where literally kids have to, like, if they don't think about and be present in the things that they're doing, they could die. And that's something that as you adapt to that type of stress, there's a lot of trauma there, but there's also something else that they found in studying these situations that it builds a different sense of durability and resilience and presence that a lot of times you would, and even in really poor countries, you see sometimes they'll poll are the happiest people. And there's this country in Mexico, and they did an interview on its president. He's just this broke farmer guy, and they're like considered like one of the happiest people in the world, and they're like some of the poorest. But they have each other, and they have roles and responsibilities, and you got to think traditionally our brains are probably more in line with tribes of about 120 people, which means you have a blacksmith, you have a basket maker, you have a bread maker, you have this person, that person, that person. And so even when it comes to gossip and why social media is so rampant and why it just appeals to us, because if you had a robber or a thief or a rapist or a person that back in those days, like it's like you have to really, like, people really talked in a way to protect the tribe. And so a lot of the gossip, it really is a nature of trying to keep the tribe safe. And if you have somebody acting nefariously, it's important for people to know who that person potentially is, but also we see how that can turn, and become really bad. But also if you think about it from a survivalistic standpoint, the genes that persist or the negative people survive more often because they were like, I'm not going over there because that is dangerous. Yeah. And then the ones that did may perish or whatever, or the wind's blowing, oh, it's just the wind. Y'all chill out. Yeah. No, it was the saber-tooth tiger, right? And so one ran and one got ate. Yeah. And so I always think of those things, but also think,
where's the tiger? That's what I tell myself sometimes. Or, where's the tiger at? Yeah. It's nowhere. The tiger's nowhere. I'm in that state, though, like it's about to attack me all the time.
Exactly. And every time you confront your fear, on the other side of that is a perspective that you couldn't have predicted or anticipated. And that's always the hero's journey, in a sense. You got to go into the wilderness before you come out of this other glorious place over and over. And it's not one journey. It's a symbol of a yoga class. To me is a full hero's journey. Like literally you go kind of, you you kind of show up and you're like, oh, whatever. Like, oh man, like, you know, got all this stuff. And then you get into it and you're like, man, this is starting to feel good. I'm just like, nice getting warmed up. And you're like, man, this is hard. Yeah. This is getting hard. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this.
Endure.
And you're just like, all right, just calm yourself. All right. Now it's like these moments when you're in this crazy place where you're finding a way to calm yourself down and gain some focus amongst all the chaos. And then eventually everything changes, right? So no matter what's going on or how bad it is or how horrible it seems or it's almost like when we're in a really dark state, we feel like this is my new reality. This is my new life. This is what I've created. I had all these great visions and dreams, and now this is what I've created. No,
this too shall never pass. It won't ever pass. It's true. That's how it feels. I mean, driving down the road, I was like, I don't. What is going on?
What did I do?
What do I do? Why am I doing this? You know, like,
I know, bro.
It's not worth it. You know, and I think I was wondering, like, your yoga experience there, do you ever have, like, in that, and I've had this, like, you're going through a tough time, whatever, you do a yoga thing, you do something, all of a sudden you walk outside and you're like, whoa, you see the world. Like,
well,
whoa,
that's the whole point. You come out of the dark forest, and now you're in heaven. You're in heaven. You're in this glorious place that you're like, wow. It was an hour ago. I was a different person.
Like the sun looks different. The clouds look different.
That's right.
Everything looks different.
But guess what? It's because you earned it. And the only way you earn that state is through suffering. Yep. And so there's no shortcuts. And suffering is one of the probably most misunderstood concepts, I feel like, in terms of where we really forget because we want to avoid it at all cost. And even our medical systems and a lot of the way we look at health and helping people is we're trying to limit their suffering, but we're so focused on their acute suffering, we're actually causing more long-term suffering.
We're not building any resilience. Exactly. We're not building any strength. We're just 100%. Avoiding the suffering. No adaptation. If you will. Like this is a good lead into something I've been thinking of lately, like in the Revive and Thrive in our mission, like the ability to thrive is directly related to my ability to be present. They're the same thing. So when they say, what is thrive? What do you mean thrive? And like, what are you going to thrive? Are you going to run a fast marathon? Is that thriving? Is like, no, like thriving is like, that's it. If I'm not present, it doesn't matter if I run a 3:30 marathon and I'm miserable. That's not thriving. It doesn't matter if I'm having a successful business and I have a failing relationship and I'm miserable. Like, that's not thriving. Like, thriving's not tied to an outcome. I think before we were talking about earlier, thriving is directly tied to my ability to be present. Now, how do I be present? Unfortunately, sometimes I have to learn that the difficult way is through suffering.
Right. Well, failing too, and then being like, okay, why? Like, when did I lose that presence and awareness? And it comes down to awareness mostly. I've learned that awareness is to notice something is the skill, because you're either conscious or subconscious, and your brain and your body are working on autopilot all the time. Most of us is subconscious, and we could just tune into parts and pieces at times, and there's ways of influencing that subconscious through breathing and inwardly focused awareness, right? But then it's also a skill in itself. And so all these things, all the modalities that you're talking about, the breath work, the yoga, it's an accumulation of all these different moments where you have these insights, but it's the same pattern. And then over time, it changes you. And then I'll say the difference between me now and hearing your stories, because I'm like, yep, everything you're talking about. But then when it comes down to it, I talk to God like I'm talking to you. And even at times where I'm like, maybe because for me, I'm really hard on myself about when I say things I know that aren't me, that I'm speaking out of the frustration, and then I heard myself say something that I know isn't who I'm trying to be or what I am. You
can see it. It's weird. It's like you're aware, but you're still.
Right.
I get into that.
And then shame and guilt are your enemies. And there's a lot of tools and ways you can think about, and it's also the lowest energy. In a sense, if you think about it, when you're feeling shame and guilt, it's when you have the least energy. Like literally, you don't feel hopeful. You don't really want to do anything. You want to go cry and lie in bed. So really dealing with, and shame and guilt is personal. It has nothing to do. It's all about what I'm doing or not doing, or how I'm viewing myself, that type of thing. And usually it's based off of how you're viewing your actions and behaviors. And the thing is, the only thing you can do to really change that are actions and behaviors, not thoughts, the actions and behaviors. And so the 4 agreements is a great, simple way for people to think about how to eliminate and avoid shame, which is really starting off with extreme personal integrity. So that means that what you say and what you reinforce is always you're really going the extra mile to make sure you're pursuing truth with your speech, in your words, because words are spells. That's why they call it spelling, because it's literally you're casting spells. And we take that for granted, and we say words all the time. Like, I can't kneel down. And if you're like, actually you can.
It's be impeccable with your words.
Impeccable with your
Word for
word.
word from the book.
Gotcha.
That's right. Yeah. Word for word. Yep. You want to walk us through the 4?
Rather not.
I recommend this to
I know
everyone.
the first
Yeah, no, I've read
two,
it. I think we
the
talked a little bit
third
about
is
it last time.
Going off the top of my head.
Mhm.
And I always forget the second two.
Don't
You
think
gotta
things
Google.
personal, I know, is one
Yeah.
of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one
Well-
where I get defensive, is what we were talking about earlier. It's like,
Yes.
that's what I'm taking everything personal. I mean, I'm getting defensive. 4th agreements are great. And, like,
And then it shows you that
I'm defensive. I'm
if
like,
you're
thanks.
defensive, that by itself is evidence that you're actually wrong. Because defensiveness comes behind, I'm protecting my ego, I'm protecting my persona, I'm fighting. But that's, you only do that. Think about any time somebody's defensive, you almost can guarantee they're a little bit guilty.
Uncomfortable truth alert for me. I mean, this is what's like. So for the past month, right? I've known in the background. So like, I've known I haven't been doing these things, right? I've known
Yeah.
I haven't been
And you're feeling a little
doing
shame.
the run. Oh,
a little
lots
guilt.
of shame.
And it's in there.
And I can't tell
Subconscious.
someone like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm feeling shame, and this is why I'm defensive. My ego won't let me admit that. I'm admitting it now.
Right.
And I even known for the last month I've been taking it out. Like, it's like deep back. I know it, but I won't want to like.
Sure.
I don't want to listen to it.
That's right.
I know it takes this action. I know it takes this, and this. But my stress is so clouded that I even can. That voice is real silent, and I go, no, I ain't got time for you. I don't even have time for that. I ain't got time for it.
That's right.
Instead of like, really, this is a cool guy in Asheville taught me this one. Instead of whenever that voice says F you, I ain't got time for that.
No.
I ain't got time for that voice. That's the one I
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We have shirts. So the place I worked at, Asheville, he's got shirts and it said, ain't nobody got time for that. And that's exactly what it's referring to. And it's his face with a little quote thing.
That's right. And then make no assumptions.
Yeah, here
That's
they are.
it. There we
Be
go.
impeccable with your words. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions.
Always do your best.
Always do your best.
Yeah. But
great.
the making no assumptions part is big, because we unconsciously are making, that's again what our brain does. It predicts. It makes a lot of assumptions. Alan Watts said that all human suffering it's actually from stuff that has never happened. And it's literally in anticipation. Just like you were talking earlier about that story, all your suffering and anxiety actually had nothing to do with the actions that you ended up taking that led to you feeling great. Yeah. It was literally the day before where you were letting yourself suffer and overthink and contemplate and stress and worry about essentially stuff that never happened.
Yeah,
That
right.
you just had to do what you already knew you needed to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that in itself is huge to think, because it never stops. And every day you never really know. You could wake up feeling great, wake up feeling, well, I underslept. And so it's like you have to have a way to clear the cache, to clean the cookies, and to you're a biological computer. You truly are, and we all are. And I think how we react to those things, and I say react, it's really respond. How you want to respond to those. I'm not feeling myself today or my best. Well, some of that is because you haven't done the things that you need to do to acquire that middle that you need, because it's work. Remember, you're over here. You always have to go to the middle to get to reality, and the reality is like, hold on, you're telling me that I'm not So I feel like crap right now. So you're telling me that's not the reality? That's my reality.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you see, I'm getting defensive.
Exactly.
But it's like the assumptions part is that a lot of the shame and guilt we have, they come after we've made quite a few assumptions, and we take for granted that, just like I said, I have a perspective and then you have a perspective, and then the truth is where? In the middle.
Yeah.
No matter how convicted you are or how convicted I am.
Business is. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
and so the idea is that we really, that means that you have to do some work to get here and I have to do some work to get here. And now, boom, now we're connected. Now we have some cohesiveness, and humans, they're not only it's a requirement like food and water connection is with other humans. And if you look at where we all struggled, addiction, look at go into jails, and you really start looking at the nature of people that are in crime and these different things. They're not bad people. It's circumstances, it's the way they're raised, it's abuse, it's trauma, it's coping mechanisms, it's survival. And then ultimately, if they were in a different situation, different house, you'd see a totally different thing. There's very few people that are actually genetically hardwired to be bad. It's like literally, I think for psychopaths, it's like less than 1%.
Yeah,
I'd say 2% max if you really wanted to stretch it. But so you could say 98% of every human you see out there is redeemable in a sense where they have a healthy, and even what we diagnose as unhealthy, if a person's in a good conditions, can heal. So I think that we really got to think about these things and realize that this, and not to sound like whatever, this is reality. This is the nature of the world we live in, despite whatever stories we want to tell. But unfortunately, we're all institutionalized. So again, I feel like this is a part of it too, that comes in layers. Because if I could have my way, I could snap my fingers right now and I could say like, hey, like, let's all do this together. And in a way, maybe that's what we are really looking for. It's like we want to feel connection. And why do we want to build community and all these different things? Is part of us just we want to be a part of a community.
Yeah.
And maybe the community that we know is good for us and everybody else doesn't really exist. And so now we have the obligation to create it.
I see it. I've got I can see their a community here of exactly what we're talking about.
But your lifestyle and you creating a lifestyle that accommodates the things that you know you need to be sane and healthy and balanced. Because if you can pour into yourself, now all of a sudden you're like, man, I got so much to give. But you remember, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And I think too, the spiritual part and you're thinking about your relationship with God, I think it's the breath in your lungs. I think that first time that you stop and you're, I'm overloaded, and you literally go hide in a closet if you have to, and you breathe, the breath that you become, in a sense. Like when I breathe in a way where I'm breathing, where I'm inside and I'm experiencing it and feeling it as if that's all that is, to me, is God. It's godly. It's a perspective that's within us, because the act of you just observing your own self, because as a sense of witnessing and feeling and experiencing that breath, to me, is actually the first thing that shifts the momentum. And it's the thing that you actually have to do to create a second. You need 1 second, and that's it. You just need a moment to say, wow, that feels better. Okay. All right. Okay. Now that little moment leads to the next and then the next and the next. And now you start building a path out of the hole. And then, okay, let's rinse and repeat.
I think that's why we ended the podcast last week. I was like the breath, right? I think we got we were talking about so many things, and we're like, and I think I asked we're talking about Samantha said, like, if I lose my track of, like, let's say for me, for example, this past month, right? Each day I've kind of lost track. How long does it take to get back? And the last time she says, the last mention,
one breath.
Does it need more than one breath?
No.
And I don't know that it does. And I've asked this question. I hear you say it, and it's like maybe it does, because I've just got to stop it. I've got to stop. I've just got to stop. Like, I think we also, like, I look at it in two different ways. Like, if I'm in a place in my life and I don't know what to do, I don't know anything, like, I'm just, whatever, then I would say do anything hard and commit to it and be disciplined. Then there's like this other side where it's like, I've got no lack of purpose, no lack of responsibility, no idea of, like, I don't know what to do. Now I just, like, how can I
start?
Work? Yeah. And how can I maintain that peace through it?
And that's the thing. Now you have the next breath, and then the next breath,
and then eventually
the next breath.
How can we get to where it's like, we're just...
Well, think about it.
Maybe
What's the pursuit of the yogi? What's the pursuit of the guru? Or, like, what's the pursuit of Buddha? Or, like, it's always this idea of we're pursuing, and I think this is important, because when it comes down to it, we're talking about the hero's journey and all these other beautiful
walking
things.
home and all these,
right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Joseph Campbell. That's really the hero's journey, myths and legends. He's a guy from in the past that really studied all the myths and all the things, and throughout all the cultures in the world and all these different things. He has a documentary series it was shot back in probably the 80s or 90s, but it is so relevant today, and it's timeless. It'll be relevant forever. But he really drops some amazing insights and wisdom in showing the connection of all religions, of all of our past, and realizing that that's the reality, is that we're actually have way more in common than we do differences. We're just only thinking and focusing on the differences. But if you really look at it from that alternative perspective, you see that we're all going through a very similar, if not the same experience. And we're learning, and we're meant to learn and endure kind of the same lessons, whether it be in this life or another. But the idea is that you have to really focus on connection over everything. And I think anytime that we feel disconnected is when we feel really low. And when we feel connected, we feel like things are jiving and things are good. But when it comes to the internal battle, the things that connect us to ourselves, and I saw something the other day that said, it was like a study came out, and it said that people that talk to themselves are more likely to be intelligent or something like that, or they're not crazy, or they're more likely. And I was like, duh. And I'm like, because you think of like, oh, well, only people talk to themselves are like schizophrenics. And like, no, actually, they have something talking to them that's different, right? It's not really, it's something different. Like talking to yourself, if you're not talking to yourself, I believe you're crazy, because that means that you have no accountability for yourself, and realizing that you're not one thing. You're a mind, your body, your spirit. You have an inner child, inner father, inner God. You have a perspective of that, right? Because like I said, the breath, the witness is God. Is God watching over his children. He's not judging us. He's observing and witnessing and seeing his creation and in all its glory, right? But it's not a matter of, in a sense, that perspective is a divine perspective. But it's like, well, we respect our culture respects intellect over intuition, and they don't even really consider that's even like a thing. Like, what are you talking about? Like you're actually attacking my identity just by saying that.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because if you look at a lot of cultures and civilizations and humans just like me and you and other parts of the world, even if you looked at, there's only, 250, 300 million people in the United States. Well, there's 8 billion, almost 9 billion, right? So now think about, that means that we're such a small fraction of human beings on the planet, but yet we feel so entitled that this is the way of life, and it's not. Yeah. People in a lot of places in the world that actually have 90-year-olds that can still do a deep squat and work and move and function, they eat on the floor. They have they actually sit around and they actually eat together with their hands and all these other things. And believe it or not, if you look at that, their immune systems are stronger than ours because of that. Yeah. Because of all those things that are like, that we're so grossed out by. Well, they're more durable and they don't get sick, right? And you do.
Yeah.
You know, that with your antimicrobial soap and your sanitization practices and all this, where your immune system is hot garbage because you are microbes. You have as many microbial organisms on you and in you than you do your own cells. So it's a cohesive environment. You're a habitat.
Yeah.
You know, and that's literally you're a fractile of the whole thing. You know, you're a representation of all nature. You know, if you really look deep enough.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. All the way. Yeah. I feel like things are, you know, I'm glad I was able to reach out to you, you know, and kind of talk about some of these things. It's kind of exciting too, like to have that little voice in the very back of the head, and then all of a sudden just to actually whatever suffering got enough, whereas like something's got to give.
Sure.
So then listen to it to make some decisions, to come on here, see if I can get a little bit of insight.
Well, that last piece, always do your best.
Always do your best.
And so, like, part of that is like you said, us sitting here and going, and even being here, we're doing our best. We don't like, it's like, oh, are we saying, or like, are we appealing, or like, it's like the nature of like worried about what, no, but when you realize like being authentic and actually letting your mind go and letting your heart do the work, that's now we're getting closer to where we need to be.
And it's that connection piece. I mean, like I was talking about, like what I've recently has just kept, like that cloud has kept me from being compassionate. It's kept me from being like present with the people around me, you know. And it's like to be able to like be compassionate. I think like compassion is like the last, like that's the last thing.
Well, it's how you love your enemy,
you know,
because you have to convert your hatred or anger into compassion, because you realize that the person that you hate and that you're angry with is suffering.
Yeah.
Because only hurt people and heal people. And that's probably a part of why we get so hard on ourselves when we know we're kind of hurting.
Yeah.
Because the nature of us is not to hurt, but yet, you know, if you're hurting, that you're inclined that you may actually spread that. And so it's a little scary. And so it's like, I got to get myself right. I can't afford to create any damage. I'm a bridge builder, not a bridge destroyer. And yet, you know, you're still human. It's still life, and there's still going to be some things going on around you every now and then where you need to express yourself. And there's moments where you might feel some anger, frustration, and you're just like, you know what? As long as you can say, I'm feeling a little angry and a little frustrated, but it was like by that thing right there. And then now the hard part for all of us is confrontation, because it's actually a healthy operation. Because the sooner now I can go ahead and say, look, whenever you said that, it made me feel this way. And I'm not sure that was your intention, but I'm not going to make any assumptions here. And I'd like you to be able to tell your story instead of me putting one in its place. And then now I think giving people space to, even like with employees, right? It's the hardest part, because you'll feel like some people are literally like, you're like, I'm doing everything I can to set you up for a layup. And it seems to me like, if I'm really looking at it, like you're trying to destroy me in this thing, like unconsciously or consciously, I don't know. But then it's like, but you can't make those assumptions. You got to really like, okay, let me, you know, I'm noticing this and this. Can you tell me like what's going on? Is there anything I can do to help, or like and now like the hard part is like really not interjecting any of your story or assumptions and letting them just tell it all, say it all, dot every I and cross every T. And then are you like, in a sense, is there anything else? Like,
and there's really freedom in that.
And now
you know?
When you speak, you're only speaking based off of the story they told and not the assumptions that you added. So now, because when people get angry and things go south, it's because I inserted my story. Like, you just told me your story, but then my assumptions are still at the front. And so unconsciously, I'm kind of, if I just speak to your story and what you said, you typically, everything's pretty smooth and we work to a resolution or agreement of some kind. But if I start inserting my assumption and I say, well, you just did this because you didn't want to, or whatever, and you didn't, it was before lunch, so you were probably grumpy, or like, you know, like your wife's probably not giving it to you at home or something, like whatever stupid assumptions that we want to carry into this, but unconsciously we can really, unfortunately, let those things get in front of that person's story, and nobody, you know how helpless it feels whenever somebody's assumption they feel like is more powerful, and you're, especially if you're sitting here telling the God's honest truth, and you're literally like, I'm not, like, this is what happened. You know, my dog ate my homework. I swear to God.
Right.
But whatever, like, and that's the thing. Given true grace is a divine thing as well, right? Because grace doesn't exist without a divine power of God. Because if it were up to us, it would just be, we'd be animals.
Yeah.
We'd just be doing what animals do and be vicious. But ultimately, we're meant for more, in that we have this intelligence and the capacity to create, in a sense, just like our creator, right? We're a fractal of our creator. We are meant to create in our own right. And I think the things that we create that are the most meaningful, you can't touch them.
Yeah.
It's connection.
You know, I was just, like leading back into that. It is connection, and all these things that we tell ourselves, they keep me isolated. I mean, even around people, isolated. I was telling, I just feel alone. I feel alone. Like I feel no one understands me. Or
you don't want to be around people because they're the ones that are draining.
No one understands me. No one this and that. And it's like, I got to lay down the sword. I got to do this. Let me connect. You know, I'm like, I'm keeping myself in this little prison.
That's
and
right.
Like
and
you said,
guess what? 5 minutes from now, after this podcast, you might have some of the same feelings, and then it's just this cycle of reminding yourself of a deeper thing. And sometimes that thing is in faith. It's like, and it is knowing that of what's happening tomorrow. And sometimes it doesn't feel like there's much hope to be found. You know, it's like, it doesn't feel real hopeful at all, does it? And then a lot of times the answers, I think they are in there. And I think sometimes most of the time, I think whenever people find the solutions to their problems, whether it's their mental health crisis or it's their this or that, you actually will always realize that you knew it. Like once you find it and you've actually overcome that thing, you're like, dang.
It's like, it was back, you knew it.
You're like, I kind of knew that was the thing I needed to do that I wasn't doing.
Exactly.
You know, and
we know. I think we do. I think we know, and that whether that's whatever these shame responses, guilt responses, some of it's made up, some of it's we know.
Yeah,
we're either walking towards or walking away.
But we're giving authority to things outside of ourselves to fix our problem.
Yeah.
If Mike would just show up on time to work, everything would be great.
Yeah.
Well, now I can't be happy unless Mike shows up to work on time. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
That's not a way you want to live. You don't want to give Mike those keys because he's clearly just not ready to drive that car yet. And not to mention, like, you should never give anybody those keys to, because it's, you know,
it just never ends.
yeah. And then those expectations, man, are the killers, because even if you look into like Norwegian societies, that's something they actually like teach in school. They actually, and they have the best schools, the highest everything, right? They're like literally at the top of the game, and they only go to school like 4 hours, you know, like a day, and half of it's recess.
Love it.
They literally only do like constructive stuff for like 2 hours.
They probably finish the day in a sauna too.
And they do no homework. Zero homework. None. They don't bring home anything. They literally, they go home and they can play and be kids and explore and do this and do that. Yeah. But the idea is that the expectations, and that's something that's really important to consider, is that our disappointment is only going to be based off of the expectations that we personally have placed on something. Unfortunately, most of our expectations we don't even realize we're putting. And that's why living intentional, with pure intentions, really, and really being intentional is so important, because if not, that's the kind of places that you find yourself almost being disappointed about expectations that you didn't even realize that you were putting on something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think now, like I said, most of the answers to the problems, they lie in saying like, all right, what are my expectations with this thing? What do I expect from this person? And being so real and conscious and clear about what you really are, not what you're saying, but what you're realizing your true expectations to be, what outcomes you're actually. And with business, you have to have expectations. You can't be unconditional because it's a transactional thing. As a person, me and you, we can be unconditional. I could try to be a better friend than you, and you could try to be a better friend than me, and we could actually just try to like outserve each other and create this great, awesome relationship. And that's what hopefully if we could all have all of our relationships be like that, man, life would be so utopian.
I think that's what I wanted the business to be honest with you. And probably part of my trap was the expectation that and assumption, right, that might have been it. And it's like, oh no, this is a business.
Yeah.
This is an lemonade stand. This is like a full on operating, we've got staff and bookkeeping and marketing and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, we have to think and we have to make decisions. We have to make choices. It's not just sit in the woods and Buddha light, all right, like, oh shit. Okay, now let's hopefully take what we've learned and like navigate this new.
That's right.
This new thing.
That's right. And visionaries think about it like this too. There's visionaries and there's integrators. And you got to realize that there's one or the other. So like a visionary in a startup is having to do a lot of integration, but it's not your natural state. It's actually, it's a very inefficient state. So it is definitely burning. It's harder for a visionary to integrate. He can do it, but you're kind of burning on both ends because you're not, it's not your natural thing. So you can only do it for a season. And then, but ultimately, if you don't connect with integrators that's their natural state, that's what they're actually good at, and their brain works very efficiently in that state, because they're those. But you ask them to have a vision, they'll collapse.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, that's what I'm learning now is like, all right, I've got an amazing team, like hands down. So it's like, all right, though, how can I use this team instead of me trying to do all this stuff? Like here's what you're good at. That's what we've been talking about in some of our staff. He's like, this is what you're really good at. You just do this, And so like me trying to do social media, marketing, accounting, bookkeeping, hiring staff, like literally I was trying to do it all. It's like we had a meeting with some marketing guys, a meeting with this, like, all right, is there a world in which you do this and you do this? And now I can focus on this. And then, and like all of a sudden the people I was asking this went, yes, they were trying to do too much. We were all trying to do too much
and you have overlapping
on, and I even said, like, you're trying to squeeze me in and I'm trying to squeeze you in, and we're not getting anywhere.
That's
and
right.
so it's like, how about you
be the carburetor, I'll be the injector, you be the piston, you be this, you be that. Everybody has a part and a function and a utility to the whole thing. But an organism and an organization is the same. A healthy organism, healthy organization. But a healthy organization needs healthy organisms within it too, right?
For sure.
So the health of the parts and the pieces, even like their diet, their lifestyle. And that's why everything that I try to do with my staff and the people that I influence is I truly am focused on helping them build intuition and helping them, in a sense, not need me. And I'm trying to help them become thinkers and problem solvers. And the thing is, it's most people are kind of, I think most business owners are scared to take that approach because, well, if you don't need me, you'll leave me. Mm-hmm. And if I train you and prepare you to be this great thinker, then you're going to leave me. And this fear, it's fake.
Yeah. And
I just don't believe in it. I think of it like I truly want to, you have to have faith in when you're investing in people, in developing people, and you're giving them skills and talents and abilities, well, at some point they can kind of flip the script on you and say, like, hold you hostage or something and say, like, well, I'm invaluable, even though if it weren't for you, it'd be whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also like it takes time, and there's a lot of heartache and heartbreak from your perspective and from my perspective, because you have to give grace every time. Mm-hmm. And you have to dish it out unconditionally, but you have to get to the point where you get accustomed to the fact that you're not entitled to it, mm-hmm. which is it's a hard pill to swallow. And it's still to this day kind of still one of those things I think it takes time to accept. But if you think about everything in life, there's a compromise. And so the things that you ask for, the blessings that you want bestowed upon you, well, guess what? Tell me one thing that there's not a compromise with that, right?
No.
There's always, if you get something, you're compromising something. If you get this, then it has an impact on something else. And so the old adage, the crown lies heavy, and it's lonely at the top, and all these other things, they're there for a reason. And most of that, it comes because you become more unlike other people the farther up that ladder you climb. And that feels disconnected, and it feels lonely. And it's like, well, I want to be connected. And so it's like, well, it's not a you problem. It's actually the people around you changing the way they view and relate to you. Because now you're less, it's their view of you being here, not yours. You feel like, hey, I'm right here.
Yeah.
We're all here. I'm just like you. We're all together. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's kind of, it feels, then it's like, well, how come whenever I'm not around, it seems like they're all talking, and it's like and then I walk in a room, and it's just like everything kind of quiets down, and they have like this like thing going on, like I can't, like,
Yeah, right.
and it's like, come on,
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Yeah.
But then it's like realizing what some of that is it's not personal, and it's not. It's the same 4 agreements. Like once you really start checking those boxes, you realize that, okay, this is just in a way, it could be because they respect you. It could be because they don't want to disappoint you. And all these other things that are kind of still a pain in the ass, because it's like, that's still like, that's not helping anything.
Yeah.
You know, just like in a way, just be yourself. That's
yeah.
literally all that you want. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. Like be the same person you'd be. Like, I want to be the same person right here, right now that I would be anywhere else in my life. And any person I'm talking to, my patients downstairs, I want to have I'm going to use the same energy, enthusiasm, words, analogies, whatever, right? And I find that that's freedom, because as you drop the mask and you start becoming one thing, and you start letting go of all these almost personas that we didn't even ask for. It's literally, they were almost bestowed upon us at some point.
Yeah, no, that's what we picked up. That's what we were talking about, that whole like born pure. We pick up all this stuff, and all of a sudden life gets weird and suffering. Like, whoa, all this stuff's made up. Wait a minute, I got to drop it, or get rid of it. One of my friends, Jason Weaver over at Alter Reality Brewery, his big saying is high tides raise all ships. And I don't know if you've had a chance to go over there, but those guys have got a thing going, and it's like, he's an owner, but the way he's running their fun runs over there and all, and being around that is like seeing the way he's doing it, his energy. And he's told me that saying in person, but I've seen the way he operates. And it's like, there's no one around there looking at him up here. Like, he's laughing, he's joking, he's here.
Yep.
So I look at him, he's a little older than me, right? Business owner. It's like, okay, what are you doing?
Right.
You've figured something out here, like I'm seeing something, and like with you, and it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, how then
There's a common pattern you'll see.
learning it,
Yeah.
and it's neat to see. And he's got kids that are a little older, right? And so
Right.
it's like, okay, man, you've been here.
Mm-hmm.
How are you being so
Sure.
jolly, and how are you doing all this uplifting? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, but I see you. You don't know
Right.
I see you.
Yeah.
But I see you.
That's
You
cool,
know what
man.
I mean? And
Well,
so
that's what we're
it
meant to
inspires
do.
me. And so if
We're
we
meant
can
to
keep
inspire each
doing
other.
that, and I'm sure I'm inspiring someone.
Sure.
And I think that's where I wanted to come on with this podcast. Like, how can we keep doing that?
Sure.
And then when we don't, I think too, like through addiction and all these other things, we isolate, and it's negative thinking. It's like, how can we come out of that and ask someone to like drop that? I've got to do it all. Like, you texted me a few weeks ago, saying like we should do a podcast. This was after the first one, and my first reaction was like, let's do it. My second reaction was like, well, I don't know. Do I want to do it? What about I just do. And so I'm like, no, let's just do it. Like,
right.
I send the text. I wrote the text, walked my dog for a little while, and I'm just being honest. And then I was like, what are you doing, Austin? Just send the text. You don't, like, that's out of your control. He asked you. You say, like, surrender to the flow of what's being put in front of, in front of you there.
Yeah.
But, I'm getting a little off topic from the high tides thing. But I think that too is like, how can I keep asking how to
I think you just keep trying
to get better? That fourth thing, like, how can I keep?
But I think
better?
you're the thermostat in a way. So your energy will get mirrored and reflected. Your heart, how you feel, not how well you're faking it. And
For sure.
And so that's kind of the idea, though, too. Like, there may be some days where if you're really not feeling up to snuff, you can't feel the pressure of like, hey guys, like, I'm aware I'm a thermostat, and I don't want you to see how much I'm struggling because I really can't afford for you guys to crash. And then it's like, maybe it's better to say like, hey, you walk in and just, hey, let's go in a room real quick. I'm not really doing too hot, and I just want you to know. And I just, at the end of the day, just want to go ahead and get that out there. Today's not the best day. And I love you. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm just so you know. And that by itself is all you got to do. I mean, really. And then people give plenty space for that. And I'm not good at that either. That you can probably tell you, like, he's probably, what? Like, you don't do that well. I try to. And more importantly, I just try to be opportunistic to say things I feel compelled to say that are in my heart. And even with Batchy, he'll tell you, like, especially, you got to think he came straight out of college into this. And, like, there was so he didn't go, like, into another place to do other training or other type. He wasn't able to, like, learn. So all the learning happened out of college straight here. So it was pretty much, this is it. And so, but also, even going back to some stuff we're talking about earlier, like, from my standpoint as a visionary, and I kind of see, and I'm learning Batchy, and I'm seeing his tendencies, I know what he's good at, and I know what he's not. And I just, based off of me not making assumptions, just kind of seeing what's working and what's not working, and this and that. And over time, my biggest fear is always to say, like, people with good character and good work ethic, it doesn't even matter what your skills are, because you can really train skills and you can learn stuff. You can develop talent, but you can't develop character and you can't develop work ethic. That's two things that I've learned that if you're trying to develop, now you want a culture that enhances and encourages and brings the best out of people, and you want to help develop character in that sense. But if if you try to obligate yourself to being responsible for that, then it's a losing battle. So it's like, but also like what a person does and what their skill set and what their efficient state, the thing that is actually like, they can do a lot of this and it doesn't burn them out that much. But they can do a little bit of that, and it's like, you don't even know who that person is. And so with him going from accounting and then working now to where he's our media director, well, it's huge. I mean, he didn't take, did you take one class about media in college?
I didn't take any. Yeah.
Any. So it was all on the job. All on the job training. And then just me really just trying to help him in a way, trying to provide him with the right resources and expose him to different people and different types of avenues like that, and seeing it as something I could tell was filling his cup. I'm like, man, this guy's actually really like he sounds excited about this. Like, he never sounded excited about the numbers.
Right.
But who would? Like, I'm not. But
saw that light shine, huh?
Right.
Right.
And the thing is, though,
that's awesome.
But in the same token, there was so much of this that I could see, in this thing that I was so clear to me. But in a way, it was like I should have spent way more time asking him questions and helping him see and realize kind of these things that are just clear to me because I could see it. And then in a way, when I made the transition and said, look, Badge, I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to make it to where all he's got to worry about and think about and do is the thing that he loves, and the thing that he's shown me he has some passion and desire and heart for, which is a huge blessing and opportunity. And this is going to be great. But the way I kind of messed up is that it was like the fact that I didn't really spend time working him through it. It felt like he felt like a slap in the face. Like he felt like I kind of screwed him over. But I get it now because it was a communication problem. And even though I was like, well, what's your freaking problem, bro? Like, I'm literally, look what I'm trying to do. Look at the equipment you have, the space you have, the this and that. And I'm just like, God, man, get over your shit. But in the same token, I was seeing it from my perspective.
And not understanding.
Exactly. I wasn't working to get to the
understand.
middle. Yeah.
the person.
Yeah, my wall immediately went up. Like when we
Yeah.
had that conversation initially, and it's like every time we talk, I know like you want it's out of love,
Yeah.
and it's out of care and admiration. You want what's best for me, so it's like I know that, but still, like my emotions are rising up, and I'm like immediately like getting super defensive, and then now I'm like, yeah, this was the right move. This is what needed to happen, 100%.
Right.
And
But
there was
also-
confrontation there too. Like,
Exactly.
like your point, it was like that little
because I
that
swear
then-
there was a
that-
point where
yeah.
I was like, we were talking through
Right.
it like this, and I'm like, Batchy, I want you to look. This is what you were having to do that was stressing you out, and it was hard, and it was like not really. It was a lot of resistance, and this is what you like doing, and this is what we're pushing. And there was a look in his eyes. I was like, you want to? I was like, if you want to say "f you" to me, just say it. I was like, honestly, and in that moment, I was like, everything in me was like, I wish he would just curse me out. I was like, I feel like if we could start there and he could just curse me out and say like "f you," like I like this, like whatever he's feeling, no matter what, like
Right.
no matter
Safe
what
place,
it was.
just friggin' safe.
But I swear to God, I know, like in a way, like I wanted it. I was like, please just do it, because I feel like we can build back from there.
Right.
Because now you've went ahead and said what I could see your eyes are saying, but your words aren't. But I feel like that almost in a way where that brutal honesty, where this is how like F you.
Absolutely.
Like in a way, like that would have actually made me feel really good. Like I was almost wanting him to do it, because I was like, I've been there before, and I've been like, I've had people in my life that were really actually looking out for me, and that were a little maybe ahead or wiser, and they kind of but in the same token, this world tells us to like, you got to protect yourself, and you got to look out for yourself, and you got all this other stuff. And so even if you've never really had a person stick their neck out for you, invest in you before, then how do you know what they even look like? You know, like how do you even know what a blessing looks like if he'll staring you in the face? Or, you know, I use the analogy sometimes that a lot of the growth in my life happened when I realized I was walking on a road paved in gold, and I'm looking over here to see the road paved in silver and the road paved in bronze or whatever. And all the while, like, I'm not even saying like I'm on the gold. Like, what am I doing? Like, you're in the place you need to be, and you're walking the path that you need to walk. And this is the gold, man. This is a blessing. Like, look at your life and look at your relationships.
You're in the dream.
You're
like
in
that's
it.
what Blake and I were to my brother. His name is Blake, and we need to say this more often now. When we were building the business, we would tell her. I would look at him and I'd say, remember, we're in the dream. We're in the dream. Because one day we'll say, man, we had it. And we always try, or I say always, like often we look at each other and say, this is it. It's not to get to here.
Sure.
It's not to here. Like, even if like we're building a business, the brothers and my mom and this and the girlfriend and kids, like, wait a minute, there's like, we're on the road. Like,
That's right.
I think that's huge. We're
And
on the
now,
road.
also, let's to the point where we'll get into now, we've done a lot of good talking and a lot of great ideas, a lot of functional tools. But for me, I always think of it like practical steps I can now take to actually to lead towards effective change. It's not a full summary of everything I need to do. It's just to say, in this moment, in this time, what are the 3 things that are the biggest frustrations in the business itself, in terms of what are 3 things, whether it's customer acquisition, whether it's getting people trained and signed up, is it getting, is it building the subscription base, is it people's objections, is it employees' objections, is it what?
You're asking me what mine, what are my
be vulnerable,
3,
and I guess I'm also asking you to be
this is
very
great.
transparent and vulnerable, as to say, like, these are the 3 things at this moment in time are the biggest gripes related to that are kind of the source of a lot of frustration for me.
consistent scheduling. of some sort.
For employees or
both.
Both.
For the last 4, I mean, like, we didn't have any schedule. We didn't know what our throughput was going to be. We didn't know, and so it's just been like, I had no clue. I mean, it was just like I was working. I didn't know if I needed to be there during the days or close or open or my brother this or that. So figuring out, and then also what works for everybody. Like, I'm trying to work with preferences of employees and try to build a team that we work together and things, but there's got to be some frustration for the last, like, getting to some sort of, and I know it's got to be flexible. Like, I mean, I know like things are going to come up, but like having, for me, and I think for a lot of people, having some type of structure to work within has been probably one of my biggest pain points, even on the home life too, as that relates to the unstructured part of the business. With Samantha, she's just passed her final exams for her first year master's program for mental health counseling. So she's a master's.
Wow.
So
that's what I was wondering when you were telling me some of the things she says. I'm like, wow, that's really wise. That makes sense now.
Yeah, she's been in, so she's been on the path for quite a while. She did a 10-day silent meditation not too long ago.
That's so cool.
Does some
I mean, y'all met on the app last year.
So she's done some pretty cool stuff, but like, man, like some of that, just like some structure to where like I can get my runs in and I can do this and I can. It was just like all over the place, and delegating, which here recently in the last couple of days we've made. No, we'll still need to do some more, but and trying to figure out what that delegation looks like.
Sure.
Because I think in some parts of visionary, if you will, it's like I don't. Like the community, I think probably communication. Let's say scheduling, and then let's say communication.
Yeah.
Second, I don't want to get too like. But so and communication for me.
Sure.
What my vision is.
And getting it across.
And getting it not only across. You're right, across, and then like the team. You probably they want to help. Everyone wants to help, and in fact, everyone say we can do this. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. And it's like I've had. I got all the like, and and it's like they're just trying to help, and it's like, but I can't do a WOX ad, a WXXV commercial. I can't do this. I can't do. I can't do.
I see where you're at too.
I can't.
I remember
when you first
that
open up a business, it's like every Google, Yelp person, person is like
every sales rep,
because once you go live on Google or live, it's like every single person is coming in. And then your employees are trying to help, but they're like, you should get with this influencer, and you should pay them this, and you should do this. And why aren't people coming? And it's like. They don't need to be coming right now. We're building systems. Like
we need to learn what we need to be.
Like I know how great our team or like what we have, our services. The people are coming. We've built it, and like we haven't done any marketing hardly at all. So it's like once we do like at all, and so like it's like and purposely so we could build these systems in. Our ribbon cuttings May 14th or next Wednesday.
Okay.
So we have, as our kind of official ribbon cutting grand opening with the chamber.
Yeah.
So a lot of this has been like a big soft opening.
Yeah.
And communicating because they want to help and they're like, there needs to be more people. And I'm like, no, there doesn't. Or like there, and so like me taking that as a fault that there does need to be more people. Like they're there.
Well, one thing
so
too
communication
is that, and you're doing it right. But you're also thinking about it like what you're doing, just like if you were getting a master's degree, right? But this is like an unconventional thing, but it's the same thing. Like you're learning, you're trying to, like I learned more from sales reps because I couldn't afford to go do a bunch of Google ads and do all this stuff. But I sat with every one of them, and I, in them selling me and me gathering information, I was literally trying to see what the scope was of what they did and what needed to be done, and could I do this myself? And to an extent where I could learn to do it in a way where eventually at some point I could actually hire, contain, and control and put somebody in that position instead of hiring this company that does this has so many accounts and they're trying to just get accounts and eventually become just it becomes some very arbitrary, not very good thing. And then over time, just like really, I'd wear them out if they wanted to, and they'll sit with you and give you as much information as you want to make their sale. And in reality, I did feel a little guilty a lot of times because I was like, I have no intention of spending $500 a month on whatever it is you're selling me, but I appreciate you teaching me everything.
Well, in some places, if you can get their market without,
I literally been sales
without,
reps taking notes.
Like,
I
that's
was
like
in
you're
class.
telling me exactly like that you're gonna put me in this or like I got our house. I can get that market without you know.
Yeah. And then you start and you could actually, because I need information. So I never wanted to outsource things where I lost the insight, because I'd rather have the information to some regard so I can learn what the truth is. And then when you're developing things and you're including your staff and you're being such a good boss and you're asking everybody for their ideas and their opinions, and now you have people of all different backgrounds and things and whatever that all have opinions, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. But then you get into this execution phase, right? So now it's like, all right, like now, unfortunately, you have a bunch of opinionated people, and you need to be able to clearly direct traffic. And you need to be able to say, okay, we've done all of our due diligence, and I've really thank you guys, and this is kind of what we've talked about and done. Now this is what we're actually going to do. Mm-hmm. And then because now you have opinionated people that you're now saying, I no longer need your opinion. We've done that. I need you to do this, and do this on this time frame. This is when I need you to do it. This, and so now the balance, because now when you come and tell me what to do, when you've been asking my opinion, all of a sudden you're telling me what to do. It's like, what? Like,
right. No, that's
even though you're paying them, it's still like, hold on now.
Why'd you ask me? Why'd you ask me my opinion?
I don't know if I even really like that. Like. And in the reality is, if you were to take in a brand new person that wasn't a part of that season, they would be ready to take orders, right? And that's the conflict, because most people, especially people from 18 to 30 years old ish, round time frame, is they need very clear and decisive instructions. Like the military understands that, and they leave no. Like they tell you when to eat, when to sleep, you're going to go to this and that and this and that. And then in a sense, everything's contained and they don't have to think. Mm-hmm. But that's really healthy for that age range, right? So like Batshi's trial by fire, because obviously you want to create this autonomous, self-governing thing, but in the same token, you have certain people at certain times in their life that they don't feel very safe if they don't have clear instruction. And so there's this balance, because, like you want to create free thinking and all these other things. So there is a middle ground between those two. And you want to focus on actionable things. Mm-hmm. And so once you clarify roles, responsibilities, and job descriptions, and so now it's like, all right, there's this job, and this job. This job is responsible for bop, 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 bop. They're the ones that open the door. They're the ones that turn on the lights. They're the ones that turn this machine on, get this thing going, that blah, blah, blah. Then you have another person that's responsible for maybe the cleaning and maintenance and this or that. And then just have like really very specific and detail-oriented procedural plans that are documented and clear. That way everybody can see it. Everybody. And it's actually not only can they see it, that's the one thing that's like, hey, I need you to study this, and then we'll come back and talk about it, whenever.
For sure.
And then now, is there any questions? Everybody understand what Jimmy's job role as the support technician is, and you understand what Bob's role is as the maintenance supervisor, and at this stage you might have one person that might have to occupy two of these now, but eventually it'll be individual.
Right.
But we got to think of it like it's like that. Mm-hmm. And then eventually you're saying like, here's our needs, here's our pie, and now here's how we slice it. And you're able to kind of put each piece where it belongs. And then you might find along the way that there's actually Jimmy's is actually really more suited to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I think you can really do your best to try to have a staff that really understands that aspect of what this is. But then there's a part of it where you need to be very clear and decisive on, okay, this is what direction we're going to go. And I really appreciate you guys' opinions on this, because I had several cases and it really taught me a lot about myself, and which I was really opinions. I want ideas and opinions and thoughts. I want to hear what everybody has to say about everything. But then when it come down to execution phase, well, guess what? If I got 4 people's opinions and I'm only picking one way to do it, so that means 3 of y'all are going to be disappointed because I didn't go with your idea or we did it a different way. Well, if you have somebody that might have experience or of some kind, even if it's not directly related, but they feel like they feel entitled that their opinion should have mattered more, or we should have done it this way. And then eventually, once you start going down a certain path, if they don't jump on that path, then they're basically, now when something happens, I told Austin we should have done it this way, but now they're talking to a customer and saying that, or now they're talking to another employee. Yeah, Austin decided to do this. I told him to do it this way. And so now they're undermining your authority and they're creating a virus in your organization. Well, sometimes that for me, unfortunately, was like family members and people really kind of close to me, and people that might have even been older and more experienced than me in life, that felt like and from their perspective, I'm just this dumb kid that's doing stuff that I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a clue how much thought and energy and like due diligence I'm really doing.
Did that drive you?
Well, I ignored
in the beginning.
It drove me to be successful to prove them wrong.
Right. Yeah. No,
Which
that's
was
on. I mean, that's
my
what
initial perspective.
that would drive me.
And it's a healthy perspective in the beginning, just like it's a child's motivation. It's not a wise man's motivation. It's it's not rooted in the right foundation. It's but it'll get you through.
I get it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I get. That's why I
Yeah.
ask. I get that. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, when I hear you say that, I'm like, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where it would come from.
And everybody that doubted me,
and it may not have gotten you here, so there was purpose in it. But
the people that doubted me were my biggest motivators, because those are the ones that were like, when it come down to doing the extra, where the thought of me failing and then being right, that's literally what allowed me to persevere. Yeah. There's because I can't tell you how many times of you putting in that little extra effort and you doing that extra thing and you spending a little extra time doing a little extra research, learning a little bit more, pushing yourself just a little past, like you feel yourself kind of like fading, but then being like, reorganizing and then like really getting over yourself and getting more into growth in ways that you're really aware, like you're consciously pushing limits.
I can
like
take
that.
a breath and then keep going.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you do that enough, bro. It's just, it's like math.
Yeah.
It's just eventually things
Catch
can't.
yourself, take a breath.
That's right. But you're never going to quit. And you're never going to stop doing your best. And you're never going to stop showing up. It might not be the best version of Austin at this moment, but I'm here. And I'm going to do my best as I am today. Not as I was peaked out a couple of days ago, but today I'm
we're
here.
not going to quit, and we're going to keep going.
That's right.
And that is the deep, and we talk about this with our team, that is the deep underlying purpose. Like, when I say purpose, I mean, whatever our missions change, our things come up, they change, but we had our staffing, like, before we even opened, I said, but we will not quit.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, in life, like in general,
Yeah.
we will, like you said, we'll have that come, but we're going to get back to the work.
Right.
No matter what the suffering is, we're going to get back.
Yeah. But the other thing too is, like you said, when you don't know when so then you just make yourself available. And every transition I've done that. In fact, I'm just starting, and over the last 3 months probably, I've consciously started trying to reestablish each time. It's kind of like you do that, where I would just show up here at 7:30 in the morning and I wouldn't leave until 7.
Yeah.
Like the first 6 months or 8 months probably of us moving in here, I literally would drop my kids off. I would show up 7:30 and then I would just literally just kind of be around just in case. Like I would kind of and what happened is we were just spending all of our time we weren't getting shit done. Yeah. And because everybody's literally would just bust in here and they would start, And then Batchy's like, and then now I'm like, Batchy, you're behind on content, this and that and the other. And then, but then I step back and look, and I'm like, well, then Quan walks in, and then Becky walks in, and then Jim walks in, and then I walk in, and now it's like, well, he didn't. And so literally we put the on air sign out there, and we were like, all right, like office hours, podcast schedule, all these things that I was just like hammering. Even then, it still took a little bit for everybody to settle in. And that's where I had to be patient and just say, like, look, this is new. This is new for me. It was actually, I was shocked on how off I felt.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been shocked. Same thing.
Because I was like,
like
I've been sitting here since day one. I planned this thing for years.
Exactly.
And now it's this thing that I've been dying to get to, and I'm just waiting to get past that finish line. And I'm here, and I was like, man, I feel totally out of place. Like, but I'm like, this is new for me too. Yeah. Like, I'm not like, what makes me special? You know, like change is hard. Good change is hard.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. Just like going back to that, what I was basically telling Ashley, like, hey, I'm going to make this change, even though it's a great change, but it's not one that, in a sense, like, he didn't choose it per se. I kind of enforced it. I was like, look, you're nothing but media now. Mm-hmm. Let all that other stuff go.
Yeah.
Everything you went to school for 4 years, everything you've been doing for the last 4 years or 5 years. And so in a way, that's felt like a slap. And I get it. Yeah. I could see how that could feel like a slap in the face. But also now that he's settled in, he's like, well, that's great. You know, like it really is. It's a great thing. But also it's kind of sometimes you have to have faith in other people. You have to have faith in other things. And when it comes to having faith in people, that's difficult, man. But I also respect that. And so that's also why it's easy for, at that season, I kind of knew what was going on. And I love Batchy so much, and I know his heart's so good. And I just knew, given enough time, it would all balance out, and he would see everything for what it is. And that's one thing that you got to always remember too, is that there's going to be points and times where you're like, I'm doing everything I can and I have all these things working against me. But remember this, the truth will always prevail. And so if you have pure intentions and you are waking up every day and you're killing your ego and you're focusing on the right thing, that even at some points, like Jesus was chastised and hated, and he never healed anybody in his own hometown because they always, oh, little Jesus, you talking about that little kid? Yeah, right, yeah, he's the Messiah, yeah. But guess what? They didn't get, they were the person that was what they were hearing but weren't listening. Like, that's the people, like, if you know something, then what can you learn, you know? So, like, that's unfortunate, but that's the truth. There's tons of times where, like, my grandma on my mom's side literally will talk to me like I'm still that whatever about her medical issues and tell me about the advice that these horrible advice she's taken from this doctor and that doctor and this drug she's on and what she needs to do about this and that. Not asking me anything, not trying to ask my opinion or get my advice that people pay good money to get and come far and wide to receive. To her, it's like she knows more than me in a sense. That's what it feels like, or that's the conversation. And so, like, it's almost impossible to guide her, because she can't let go of that. But in the same token, I can't take it personal. I just gotta.
Do you try or do you just listen?
I used to.
Yeah, right.
I used to, but then again, energy conservation.
Right.
If I'm going to sit here and try to lead you somewhere that sounds like you're asking me to lead you to, but as I start to lead you there, you start going off in this direction, in that direction. It's like, do you want me to lead you, or like what's going on?
Energy. I mean, I think.
And so at some point, you become very protective over that. Mm-hmm. And one thing that in the Bible says, do not cast pearls at swine. And it's not to say like my grandma was a swine, but it's to say like you have to make sure that you realize that what you say and do and who you are are pearls, are gifts, they're blessings. And that when you're offering help to somebody that isn't clearly receiving and respecting and utilizing your help, then essentially that's the analogy, not to be rude, is that I think that's kind of where I was like, at some point, I got to make it my life's mission just as well to realize that I can't afford to do that, because all the time and energy I'm giving this person that's going to take the advice that I've been very thoughtful about and not take any of it. They just wanted to vent, really.
Yeah.
And they really didn't want my help. They just wanted to hear it, but they're not going to take any of it and execute it and take it to heart. I have to be willing to see it for what it is and to step back and to say, like, next time that they do this same thing and it seems like they're asking for my help, but until they prove to me and show me some evidence that they're actually going to respect my time and energy, then I can't expect that they're just miraculously going to start doing that unless I create conditions for them to do it. And so some of that means what I don't do is as important what I do.
Sure.
And what I don't say is as valuable as what I do say.
Yeah.
And so that's the next layer of, I feel like, of ascension, of growth, is really realizing that your discretion is also the most powerful tool as it can possibly be in business. Because sometimes you say things, especially when it comes to negotiations and contracts, or for instance, if you're an employee and I was like, yeah, man, we could probably pay you like $100,000.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I get back and Becky's like, what are you talking about? Like literally the market for that isn't even but like 60 grand. And it's just like, like that's not even a thing or whatever. And I'll come back and you might've thought 40,000 was good until I said 100.
Right.
So now when I come back and I say 60, I say, well, Becky, I talked to him and we said 60. You're totally let down. You're totally disappointed. And you totally are not even sure if this is like, but initially 40,000 would have been heaven for you until I said 100. You see what I'm saying? So like sometimes we can say things unconsciously or unknowingly or whatever. And, but then now the way that changes things and the way people's perception changes, now their heaven just turned into an hell. Now they're making 20 grand more than they thought was heaven, but they feel like it's hell. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
And it's just, it's nature. It's human nature. And it's just unfortunate, but it's kind of.
This is it's made me think of something. I'm just going to say it, but it made me think of, it's kind of like, probably on a different level, but like, you ever know whenever you're swinging a baseball bat and you put a donut on it, and then you swing it and then you take that donut off and it's light.
Yeah.
And I think about, I know it's like probably on a different topic. I was just thinking, it's like a lot of life's kind of like that with stressors and all these kind of things. And then like once we work through them, it's like, oh, then
you're lighter.
I'm on that bat without
you drop the donut.
Without the donuts off of there, like cold plungers or saunas, whatever. It doesn't matter. Running stuff, whatever hard things are. And then it's like, whoa, I was like, running makes life easier.
Yeah.
These stressors make life easier.
Right.
Why do you train? Train for life.
That's right.
You don't train for any specific things. And so, like, I was thinking about that the other day, the donut example.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's it. Then life, I'm walking through life like a light bat.
Well, well, another thing too, the same thing the same source of energy in life can also become a source of draining and taking your energy in death. So like, for instance, I could wake up in the morning and eat eggs and bacon, saturated in coconut oil, and electrolyte water, athletic greens, creatine. That's kind of, and then literally feel great, no energy issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that sustenance, that fuel, gets me going. Or I could wake up and I can eat a donut and some pancakes. And literally feel like death. And now my body is using more energy to try to break down and deal with this carbohydrate, folic acid enriched bullcrap.
You're putting all that weight on. I know that.
So now my body's under so much stress trying to deal with this load I just put on it versus the other one, which was like not even carbohydrate related, believe it or not. So technically it's like, well, there's not even glucose in it. So shouldn't be energy there. But the cholesterol and the proteins and the fats that your brain need to sustain itself is really the key there. And then and then not having that insulin release that causes that glucose to get sucked up, and now all of a sudden you're hypoglycemic. Mm-hmm. So now you feel worse.
Yeah.
And so literally they're both food.
Yeah.
One gave you energy, one stole your energy. Mm-hmm. So there's difference. And I think once you realize the foods in our life and the things outside of that they can be energetic or they can still. And some people, even unconsciously, they're being very codependent on other people for them to be whole and well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that is it's a part of our nature, but it's also, you're also giving them keys to something that I'm not sure if you want to give them those keys or not. And I think just this process of pushing and pulling, trying, failing mostly, and then just
mostly,
yeah.
But it's that push. It's just like keep going.
Yeah,
and
then
going.
pivot.
Keep going.
And sometimes it's not revolutionary change. It's literally just small changes that can be monitored and observed, and then on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And obviously, it's a lot funner and easier when you can do it as a team. But getting a team cohesive really comes down to the structure of communication as well. Yeah. Because if I'm just available and I'm like, well, Batchy, I was in there the other day and I talked to you about A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. And then I came in, and then another time we had this conversation. I can remember those two conversations, but in his mind, he's like, well, actually, when you walked in there, I was in the middle of editing a video. Quan had just walked out of the room and he had just said this, that, and the other. And so, like, versus if I said, hey, Batchy, we need to talk about A, B, and C. Let's meet Wednesday between 11 and 12. And so now he's got like 3 days. Mm-hmm. It's on his calendar, and then Tuesday comes, and he's like, oh, yeah, I got to meet Robby tomorrow between 11 and 12. So now he's like, his brain's having time to prepare himself, and now when we meet, he's not a squirrel, you know, and he's not in that fight or flight state, and he's not sitting there waiting for me to bash him. Because first time I had this happen was just an impromptu thing. And I had a massage therapist as I was support staff, and I was really meeting with her to tell her great job, encourage her. And then I'd gotten through this, and I was like, man, this is a big kiss butt fest. And I was like, and so then I was like, I need to just give her some constructive information, because this is kind of not really that productive. I'm just glorifying her right now. And so I was like, you know, you're killing it here. I love that you do this. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, something constructive. I don't even remember what it was. It might have just been like, you know, like whatever, like, you know, put the paper towel on the roll whenever you go in there, whatever. Something just that wasn't just kiss ass. I felt like it was important to do that. I didn't even have to, really. That's not why I even met with her. Yeah. Well, later the day I see her and she's like, man, she looks kind of funky. Like, I'm not sure what's going on with her or whatever. Next day she comes in. She's still walking around with this like weird attitude. And then she comes, and I was like, Summer, I was like, let's talk real quick. And I just said her name, I'm sorry. Anyway, and so she was like, yesterday you said that I didn't put the paper towels in the hot or whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm just like, Summer, we spent 30 minutes. I spent 28 of those minutes glorifying you, praising you, telling you how great you were doing and how thankful I was for what you do. And I was like, but she's like, no, you didn't. She only heard. Yeah. She was sitting there waiting for the negative. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, like once I got to the negative, she's like, that's what you met with me for. Mm-hmm. Impromptu, like last second. So in a sense, like I basically created an environment for her to be in a fight or flight state. Mm-hmm. And because I didn't schedule it and she didn't have time to prepare for it. And so it was, to her, in her experience, it was a bigger deal. And now she's sitting in front of her boss and waiting on me to bash her, you know, which that wasn't what I was doing at all. And like I said, even the constructive criticism I gave her, I was just kind of throwing it out there just to make it, I felt like it was more productive to be that way. Mm-hmm. But needless to say, that just taught me a lot about the human psyche, about really empathizing with learning your learner and understanding what their experience is like, and to create conditions of safety and comfort for them mentally. It's much better for me to say, hey, Summer, we're going to meet every Wednesday for 15 minutes and have some professional review time regarding this, that, and the other, where we'll talk about some things you're doing well and things that we need to get better at. And then she shows up to that meeting.
Yeah.
Everything's great. And she heard the positives and the negatives. But she also had time to get herself settled and prepared and for what was going to happen. And, well, whenever we're in startup phase, you just get it when you can get it, and you have the talks when you need to have the talks. But the place now is to really create the conditions to where it's like, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z between this time and this time. And also, when I'm not in that time and you ask me that question, we're meeting tomorrow at 11 and 12 to discuss the thing you're talking about right now.
Yep.
So don't bring that, like, that's not the time or place.
Yeah.
And you get used to, like, training the people around you to maintain those conditions, which is tough, but it's actually much easier. Oh my God, it'll feel like you'll feel so free, because it's you're saying, like, I know what needs to be talked about, what needs to be dealt with, and I already have the time and the place in the path established to handle all that stuff. So now I'm going to be here between this hours and this hours. When I get here, I need you to have this information available. And then outside of that, we ain't going to worry about it. We ain't going to talk about it. We ain't going to stress about it.
Yeah.
And then that way you just create the conditions to take all those stressors and all the things that need to be happening, and you just go ahead and plan it out, and it's there. Everybody can see the schedule. Everybody can see when and what's happening. Because it is important for people to know what you're doing, especially your managers or leaders, just so they're not, you could be out doing the thing that's going to take the business to the next level, that's going to create an opportunity for them that can change their life. But if they don't know, they're assuming you're on the golf course. Yeah. They're assuming you're just dicking off, you're sleeping late, you're doing this, you're doing that.
Right.
You'll come in, they'll be like, show up when you can.
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm the owner. But it's just because, like, hey, this is when you can expect me. And eventually it all works out. Like, they start to get it. And they're like, oh, Yeah. And then if I don't know where Austin's at, then he's probably doing this or that, which is like, that's what he needs to be doing.
Yeah.
But it's not just going to happen. It does take a little.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like, if I say, like, back to, like, the three things, right? I would say, communication. I mean, like, I'd even say it's like I can name a bunch of things, but they all relate back to communication, right? And then I would say energy balance. So I can't communicate effectively if my energy is not balanced. If I'm not, if I'm in this, like, fight or flight all the time, then I can't, so I would say energy balance, communication, and then the scheduling and all of that comes from the communication, the energy balance, right? So, like, those are the three. And so I was like, all right, here we go. I'm glad you asked that, because I think we can have a long podcast about a million different things, and it's
well,
like,
I want to make sure you actually.
And I like that. Like, all right, what are the three? No, I like that you brought it back to three specific things, because then it's like you walk like, whoa, what? It can be like so much, right? Like, it's like, no, those are the three. I like that, and that's communication.
Because that's so
good communication.
Think about how functional this podcast is. We're getting this to speak to people in a way where maybe they can kind of take some of this and really apply it. Like, wow, that makes sense. But then also, like, we're getting to action items that can actually be useful to dealing with some of the stress that you've been under. And then, so it's literally like a full circle, which is great.
It's going to help me tremendously. It's going to help me kind of get here. Right? Okay.
And you're reminding me.
You're
reminding me that it's no different. Like, I'm subjected to all the same rules. I still take all that medicine I just dished out. And so it's accountability, and that's a part of this cycle as well, And there's people that I look to in the same way, but it's really, I wish they were more accessible, to be honest. But there's been seasons where I've really had some great people that and the thing is, you got to put energy into it. Like, this is kind of my life. Like, I've been lucky to create the space to do stuff like this, and I'm so thankful for that. But a lot of the people that I've learned from, I had to really dig and look, and I put myself in positions where I was paying for experience in certain cases, not getting paid. And being relentless about that, because of the learning and the knowledge and the things that you can acquire. Yeah, that's not,
Yeah.
but it's your value. It's the most valuable thing there is. And I really believe that. I truly believe that pursuing knowledge is, that's a very healthy addiction, you know, because now you even entertain yourself with more knowledge. Yeah. It's like, this is what entertains me, learning more. This is like, it becomes the fruit and the energizer in itself. And you'll notice with therapists, like, if you got a therapist that's like, you know, you seem a little burnt out, and it doesn't take much. Maybe I start falling behind on sleep, fall behind on notes, you know, like, I got a baby now. And, so life changes. And so there's seasons. But then you send them to a continuing ed class, which is like, you would think that would be like, they come back like, no, they come back on fire.
Yeah.
Because they're energized, because they learned something new and they got something new to approach. They got a new perspective. Yep. And they come back and it's just like ready to go. So knowledge is energizing, man. And I think that's one thing that we unconsciously avoid sometimes. We're like, work, like, when I get out of school, I'm never reading a book again. Like, all these ideas about that, because school destroyed our thirst and our appreciation for learning, because it made learning very not fun.
We've got to have that curiosity.
That's right.
That's what we mentioned earlier. Curiosity. That's what I'm trying to tap back into here personally. Like, curious, like about it all. How is it like? Let's get in here. Like, I got get learning again. Like, 'cause sometimes it's like
curiosity drives everything.
This is the way, and here's saunas and cold plunges, and they do this, and it's stress adaptation, and let me show you how to do this, and it's like, okay, Austin, let's get back into students sometime. It's both, because we are the professionals in a sense of having that, but also like always engaging with customers on what they know and what they can learn, and like
learning from them.
Learning 100%, and like that helps the communication.
It helps everything.
I'm not,
and maybe you can't even, and I truly believe this, like at this point for me, like I can't teach until I learn. So in a sense, I need to get fed before I can feed you. So like learning your learner to me isn't really a form of teaching. It is the optimized way to teach. And because teacher, coach, influencer, your influence is garbage really, and arbitrary and cookie cutter, and it's not specific to a person until you know what that person is and what they need and what's going on. And so I really truly believe in that. And your interest and your enthusiasm for exploration and learning is literally the source of all human development. If you look at a baby, if you put a red Solo cup on that table and a baby walks in this room and that cup wasn't on here last time, their eyes are going to get fixated on that cup the second they walk in the room, right? Yeah. Now, if they come in again and everything's the same, then they'll probably, who knows? But our brains will notice the thing that's new. And then the thing is, when we're babies, everything's new. Yeah. And so like, what is that? I want that. And now how do I get from here to there is the source of all of our motor development, all of our sensory integration and our nervous system coherence, right? It's literally all starts with, what is that? I want it. Let me touch it. I want to play with it. How do I get to it? And a bunch of accidents that happen that eventually integrate these reflexes into controlled motion, volitional movement. And so that's the source of all growth from time we're babies to the time that we die. It never changes. It's so your interest is the key to all learning. And if you can't become if you're not interested, then you're not technically really learning. You're regurgitating, you're memorizing, whatever. But my key to growing, and even when people tell me I'm intelligent, I'm like, what? Who? Like, what guy are you talking about? I'm just extremely interested. Yeah. I'm interested in people. I'm interested in stories. I'm interested in hearing perspectives. I truly am. Like, I'm really just truly interested. It really is exciting. Like, I love hearing people's stories and what got them there and patterns and it's just really that excites me and energizes me. Yeah. But I think I'm not any different. I think that's really all of us. And I think that
so. Yeah.
even if you take somebody that's not smart, well, give them something they're interested in. All of a sudden, you watch them blossom.
It's true. That's what they're talking about. The kids, kid that can't sit still in the classroom. It's like, well, if you gave him something that he was interested in, he'd be incredible. Or like, you just can't sit there and focus on stuff they're not interested in.
And that's really the nature of all of us, you know? And the thing is that we even have to learn that aren't so interesting. If it's leading us to a place that we are interested in, then hey, you know?
I will say that my favorite part about my job is as I've experienced in the last month, is hearing people come out of a sensory deprivation tank or come out of a site. And we've got a lady, an older woman now that's come in, and she's come several times and is doing and joined a membership. And all of a sudden, she was looking out the window the other day, and she goes, "I'm seeing things differently." I went, "Whoa!" Like what? Like, you know, like just like wow. Like, and she was like, "I don't know what's happening, but I'm seeing." She's like 75.
You're unlocking the
hearing
brain.
These experiences and hearing these like, and I was like, especially the sensory deprivation. Like, I would ask them, tell me about your experience, and it's different. You know, for each person. It's really neat seeing their faces when they come out.
I think the ultimate physiologic change is you're actually turning down the default mode network, and which is kind of the source of the ego, if you will. But that happens in multiple ways: psychedelic experiences, sensory deprivation tanks, religious experiences, near-death experiences. They're all kind of symbolic of the same journey. But the idea is that as you turn that down, what happens, because it's like a teacher in the classroom, so it's governing. It's letting Bob, hey Bob, you can talk to Jimmy. Yeah. Samantha, you can talk to Sam. Yeah. And then what happens is it kind of it either quiets the teacher down to where she's the teacher that's very kind of like cool and it's kind of letting things happen, or it kicks her out of the room.
We've had that. It's like, actually, it's funny you say that. And I at about 25 minutes or so, or whatever it is, different. We have it's half and half. Some people are like, oh my, like are type A that think they're going to get in there and can't, and then things are going to come at them from all angles, and they actually find peace. They're like, whoa, no, I've just been. That's what the world's been telling me.
That's right.
And then they have some people. We do have some people that get to a point. And they're like,
but if you look at the brain,
I need something to hold on to.
If you look at the brain, it just establishes coherence. So now the brain is integrating and talking to itself fluidly. And so now the whole classroom is actually communicating in a way that is really interesting. And now the person on that side of the room is talking to the person on that side of the room and that person. So now
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's just in the default mode network is the source too of the things we're scared of, and it's the fear, and it's a survival thing, right? It's all about survival, but you can't really thrive in a survive mode. You got to there's a bit of really you got to tune that down, but also when you're a person stuck in that, you're telling me what you're telling me is like you're attacking my identity in a way just by you telling me like you even trying to help me, you're telling me there's something wrong with me.
Bam, you nailed it right there. Something's wrong. I'm defensive.
It's the source of all defensiveness and everything else. But what it does, it's the same part of us that when we know that we're wrong, in the apology feels like a million miles. When in reality, when in reality, it's an inch.
Yeah,
that's the same aspect of us. It's a really weak, primitive part of us. It's the child. It's the inner child. It's the first part of us that we know. It's a deep part of us.
I'll be sitting there and I'll go, why can't I say I'm sorry? Like I know, like to Samantha,
it feels like work.
I'm like, well, I know I'm wrong. Like I know I acted. Like I know, like, and I can't do it.
Know.
Like she knows. Well, obviously she knows. Like like she whatever. Like, no, it's like I can't. It's like or I tell my it's like, oh, it's so heavy. It's so heavy.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we're kids, we all know those feelings of like, because it's so real when you're a kid, because you do a lot of things that are wrong, and you're wrong a lot, and you say the wrong things and whatever. So you're constantly having technically you should be apologizing constantly because you're probably always screwing things up. And I think as an adult, the idea is like it's apologies and forgiveness is really for you. It's to feel better. And intuitively always kind of understood that. I've never, always was really lucky, and I was raised in a very awesome. I was raised by my grandparents who really were like next level, but it was one of those things for me. It made a lot of sense, but also when you realize most people are in households that they're used to shoving things under the rug, and they're used to not apologizing and just acting like everything's fine. And now I'm just going to buy you something to make you feel better instead of saying sorry. But it's like, well, the heart is still not whole. You know, there's still some disconnect there. And so I think for me, I always, if I was angry or bitter, or I felt, or even if I felt like I was wrong, I've always had a deep sense of understanding of what that shame meant. The shame, and I knew for me to feel better, I needed to do something, because I didn't feel good. I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And now I could tell you, Austin, I'm sorry. I hurt you. I did this or that. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, this feels great. I just let all that go. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, like, to me, it's never really been that hard to apologize and forgive, because like I want relief.
Yeah.
And I really get bound up. Like if I'm unsettled, or if we're in a bad way, and I know that at our core we get each other or whatever, and like it was just a moment, like that'll really work on me.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware of it. And also, like, I don't want to suffer. I already have enough things that you can suffer from, you know?
Yeah.
And so, in this business has taught me more about myself than anything, because I could actually get over my pride and ego to do what was best for the business. Right?
Oh yeah.
So I get a 1-star review from actually I've had a couple weird situations, like really weird stuff. There's a lot of different people out there. I have like a 1-star review from a person that's never stepped foot in this building, and like because I will do whatever I can to fix a problem if somebody has a bad experience, or we get a bad review, this or that. Well, then I find out that the patient has canceled 15 or has no-showed this many times, has done this, has said this thing to this person, is like really, you could tell. And you look back at their Google reviews and it's all just them tearing apart everything they've done. There's like nothing positive. It's just like all crap. Yeah. So you realize this is just like that person. And I've offered them, I've sent edible arrangements. Like, I don't care. That matters. And I can swallow my pride. You know, like I take zero defense. Like my wife would be like, "Oh my God, like screw them!" I'm like, like she gets so mad and like she wants to like go after their throat. And I was like, no, like I feel nothing. Like I don't take it personal. And for whatever reason with the business, I just get it. There's people out there that are suffering and hurting, and they're distraught, and and I see that. I'm like, man, I feel sorry for that person. I really feel compassion for that person. But like, giving them, like offering them a free this or whatever, if that's gonna get this off there, because it does matter to people, then good. If they want to leave it on there after I've made a kind gesture and showed them compassion and grace, and they want to continue to be that way, then that's on them. And so I can live with that 1-star review, because I know I've done everything I can to show them who we really are and what we're really about.
Right.
And so, but almost every time, I don't ask them to remove it either. I just try to be genuinely gracious and try my best to fix their concern. And then it always happens, you know. And even now I'm trying to outsource that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, nobody cares more than me. So like, I think back to that and I'm like, yeah, I've gotten almost every one of those I've confronted, they've gotten dealt with. And then like we've had, the only bad reviews we have now started as 5 stars, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So one, because I released a person that was going in competition with me a couple days early, just because you want it to be on your terms. So even though he gave me his notice, it's very customary. Even sometimes the person giving their notice, they might even let you go right there, because it's really like if you already know you're going, and I mean, at the end of the day, like we got to move on. Well, that's all it was. I waited till the end of the day, whatever. Well, one of the patients that was like buddy with that particular person, changed their 5-star to 1-star and just talked about how unprofessional we were and this and that and the other. They have no context other than his sob story, which of course he got so offended. And really it was just because it wasn't on his terms.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, you literally have told me you're going to open a competing business, and I've literally done everything I can to train you, develop you. I've gotten you dry needle certified. I've gotten you this. I've given you an opportunity to open it. Like I'm doing everything in my power to make you a future partner, and I plan on this thing doing it, and to give you resources and like to be a part of this team and to grow this thing with us. And then you're choosing to go take everything and do your own thing. And whatever. Yeah. It is what it is. I've trained probably most of the coach therapists at this point. But then it's like, then like, I'm not going to sit here and give. So what, if you were going to really dig in and try to get a bunch of patient records, or if you're going to do something nefarious, it's probably going to be in those last couple of days where you're like, oh my God, I'm about to jump ship and I'm going to be on my own. And like, I know typically I wasn't going to do this, but now I'm in a desperate place. Like, let me just go ahead and do this. And so it's like, that's probably when those moments of weakness would probably occur anyway. So that was really my thing, is like, there's no real point in letting somebody almost like, hey, I'm fixing to leave. I'm going to go down here. This is my address.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like consciously, I got to protect my business. Like, it's not personal, dude.
Right.
But yeah, I got a bad review from that. Yeah. And then I got another bad one because a person had a balance and we were calling to collect the balance. And it's not even me. It's our billing collections company that does it. And then it was a 5-star review, and she moved it to a 2. And then she even said nothing but great stuff. The facility's great. The people are great. Everything's amazing. But if you have a balance, they're going to call you and bother you and this and that. I'm like, well, you have a balance. You owe money. Yeah. You receive services and you didn't pay. Like, why are you mad at me? Like, pay your balance. Like, we wouldn't call you one time if you would have paid your balance. Yeah. Like, this is a business. Like, we have to pay bills. Yeah. Like, I paid people to help you.
I'm sure we've got our 1-star review coming at some point. You know? We got. I mean, I remember, like, we never know what someone's going to say that we remember, or what we're going to say that someone else remember. I remember the first time we met, you actually said something along the lines of like, this business is going to show you everything you've ever needed to, or like, it's going to bring up everything. And I heard you at that point, but I was still in like, okay, you know, and so, but I heard that and it stuck. It stuck, you know, and so like there's times where I think about that and it's like your business, right? 10 years, right? I mean, like when for where you're at now and where you're at then, I think about that sometimes and I'm like, okay, it's good. This is an incredible teaching lesson. It's not meant for everybody, but I'm signing up for it. So
and it'll show you parts of you didn't even know you could. It'll show
That's
you.
what I'm seeing. It's like, oh wow, I didn't. Okay.
You didn't know. You'll be like, I didn't know I was capable of actually dealing with this. And but at some point you do, and you're like, wow, like, and then you get to the point where it's that idea of like, can I love my enemies? Mm-hmm. Is that like, because that's what we're being called to do, and then really over the last 3 or 4 years, I've finally kind of really feel like my heart is kind of I haven't figured it out, but I've definitely understand the path now in terms of how and why and what it all means. And it really just comes down to your enemy is just a word. It's a semantics in a way. You could say it's your opponent. You could say it's your opposition. You could say that your spouse is your opponent or opposition, you know, if you really want to get into it, because they're your opposite. Opposite. You know, it's opposition. So it's semantics in a way. And so when you look at it, what is your spouse and you, in a sense, they're meant to help you grow. You're meant to help them grow. So that's why we attract opposites, because the person opposite of you, you're here, they're here. Where's the truth? In the middle. So as y'all work to find that middle and compromise and come together and learn about each other and figure things out, they're helping you become the person that you're meant to be and have the perspective of truth that exists outside of your perspective. And they're showing you the worst parts of you.
I'm getting heavy doses of it. Yeah.
And you're showing them the same thing. And they're showing you the best parts of you. But it's ultimately that's why they trigger our defensiveness. And that's why it's such you can have it all figured out and never figure that one out, you know, and you'll see that all over the place. And now you see some older folks like my grandparents, like they figured it out. Only took them 70
you can,
years.
and I can, you know, I can see it. Like I'll notice sometimes where it's like I'll get defensive in my head, but I'll catch it. I won't say anything, and then it goes an amazing direction. Like the whole conversation goes amazingly, and it was never a thing. My defensive reaction never entered the universe, and like I'm like, whoa. Then I get to like a firsthand experience of like that was just me.
Yeah.
That was really just me.
Yeah.
She didn't even like have any clue what, like, she wasn't trying to push my buttons. She wasn't trying to like, I was like, ooh, that was, and it was me then too. And it's probably gonna be me, you know? And so like when I say heavy doses, we don't always get heavy doses, but recently it's like, I'm having okay, Austin, we got to get back to work.
That's right.
We got to get back to work. We were avoiding work for a little bit, if I'm honest, spiritual work, you know, it's like, okay. We got to get based.
And it's balance, man. It's like I said, mind, body, spirit, but it really is like your work, family, and God. And neither can be ignored. And the one that gets ignored, if it's not balanced, you're not happy. If you're thriving in two and you suck at one, you're not happy. You know, if any one of those gets complacent, you're not good. So I think about it like, you have to just tend to it. You can't ignore it. Like the plant, what happens? You ignore it, look what happens. It dies, right? Yeah. Now, if we catch it at a certain point, we might be able to water it and bring it back and just cut off the dead stuff, and then you got some new stuff that comes. But also, like, it's kind of starting over, and that sucks because it's like you're not. It's hard to meet your full potential when you're constantly having to restart and. You know, and that's kind of the nature of why I think everybody should garden and plant trees and do that kind of stuff, because I've learned more from that than anything.
It's true.
You know, and the concepts of nature and opposition and the forces at play, and you start seeing that the things that we call are everything that doesn't believe in what I believe is my enemy. Like that's all a lie. It's all a bullcrap lie. Like we're all meant to be a mirror for each other, and and when we see things that we don't like about people, it's literally just the things that are within us that we have told ourselves we don't like, or whatever the case may be, you know. And that's why I feel like we're really, you know, it's like every step of the way is like swallowing your pride, man. And at some point you're like, God, I'm tired of this, dude.
You nailed it.
It's exhausting, man. And then eventually you just start trying to function in advance to limit that. Yeah. So my goal is to not that I don't mind apologizing and forgiving, but I'd really like to live a life where it's more of a rarity because I'm behaving well. Yeah. And I'm acting well, and I'm not doing a lot of and saying a lot of stuff that I need to be more mindful in advance, because you know, the truth hurts, and in that humility of like every time that you realize that initial moment, you realize you're wrong. Like when my friend Sean sometimes will say something to me and I'll be like, shit, he's right. And I'm like, damn. Like in that moment, I'm like, damn, this is the same feeling I had when I was a little kid. Yeah. You know, it's just like, and it's still the same experience. And I literally have to, you have to swallow your pride because it's a lump in your throat.
It is.
It is literally a lump in your throat. You have to get it down, and you got to accept the reality that you were wrong. And it, for weird reason, it always feels that way initially, but then immediately, as long as you're like, okay, now what do I do next? And now if your mind immediately goes to dealing with it the right way, then it is a little weird, and it's tough, and it's not always an easy path until you practice it enough, because you realize how relieving it is to get on the other side of it, and how rewarding it is to reconnect with something, you know, that was broke. Yeah. But man, and how much easier it was just to get it over with instead of waiting 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like it's that letting go over and over and over again. When I get that lump, I'm like, I gotta let go more.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or that pride or thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I thought I'd already, you know, or that was, I experienced this when I was a child. Like, I still, you know, it's like, so, but it's like continue to release that.
And I don't think that feeling ever changes, but I think,
you know,
your emotional attachment to that feeling is less. And just like with the cold, like, or whatever, it's the same thing. It's like, it's the same feeling, but you're like, oh, like I've done this a bunch.
You
and
recognize it quicker. And then
and so I feel it, but I'm
sense.
not like now with these HIIT workouts and stuff, like, cause it gets your heart rate up and you're doing this conditioning. Part of the issue is that you start panicking and then you start anticipating, like, what's next? Oh man, I'm not going to make it through this workout. And that's using 10 times more energy.
For sure.
And so literally, like, now what I've learned is, like, I still have the same thing that pops up, the same feeling that used to lead to more inefficient responses. But I'm like, oh, this is when I need to actually settle myself down and shut myself up. And so, like, I'm literally just like I'm going nowhere. Like, I'm literally just shutting my thinking brain off, because right now I'm in a doing mode, and this thinking is not helping me do this thing. And so, in giving yourself the space to do that, because if you just let your brain go wherever it wants to go, and you let your panic mind and your reactionary mind make the moves in your life, then you're going to be in a bad place, man. And but I think also giving ourselves the freedom to be human, man. And, like, it's so cool just because it's like nobody's exempt, man. Jesus was the only sinless human, and we don't have to be perfect. And guess what? You've already been forgiven for the thing you haven't even done yet, right? And so I feel like, look, if Jesus can show us grace and forgiveness, then who are we to withhold it? You know, and I think sometimes it starts with forgiving it actually always starts with forgiving ourselves. And your love and your relationship and your ability to forgive yourself is the key to everything you want in your whole life. And everything will be reflected through that. So, and I feel like that's the core focus, you know, because the love you have for yourself is the love that you share, and it's the love you give. And the lack of love for yourself, or the shame or guilt or this or that or whatever burden or baggage we carry, we impose it onto the things around us, whether we like it or not. So there's something to be said about taking action. I don't feel great today. What actions can I take to change that? Cold plunge, salt room, you know.
Natural dopamine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
let me do something. My body's a damn chemistry set.
Yeah.
All it needs is some inputs and some set and setting. And let's go ahead and get that stuff going, you know. And I know this thing works because I've done it before. Let me go back to the well that I know is effective. And the same thing that happens when you get out of that thing, you think of that, you got done with the thing, or you got to that place that you said you got to this morning. And you think about some of those things that were going on last night, or even right before you jumped in that cold plunge, like a person or a thing that was just agitating you. And then you think about that person after you've done that, and you're like, huh, I'm not even agitated at that person. That thing doesn't even bother me anymore. Then you realize that it wasn't about the person or the thing, it was about you.
Totally.
It was always about you.
Yeah, that cold water will, it has no mercy. It will show you very quickly that it's you. And that after feeling of being like, whoa, okay, all right, we're all right. It wasn't all y'all.
Batchy, you got anything you want to add, brother?
I do not. That was a lot of information, but a lot of good gems in there.
Oh, well, we'll take it a long ways, won't we?
Oh, no. Honestly, we could, that's the fun part. That's the thing. We could just sit here all day, but I think that's probably a good point.
I think so too. Let's keep talking. You know? Let's keep
we'll
spreading
keep
the
doing
good
this.
stuff.
Hopefully this will just appeal to somebody or help somebody. And
Maybe it will. Yeah.
If there's anything we said that can help you, then you know where to find us. Revive and Thrive. What's y'all's address?
1073 Acadian Drive. So we're just east of the Pass Road and Cowan intersection. Yep.
And and you can go to their Instagram, and you could check them out a little bit more. Their team, their community, Austin, one of a kind people, but it's a community, and it's something that hopefully through this conversation, everybody realizes that nobody's exempt, and we're all going through the same battle. It doesn't matter what level we're on, but I feel like the quicker we can kind of do what you did today, just when it said like, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get this out there, and not only that, I'm gonna get it right out there where people can see it, and I can hold myself accountable to that standard, and I think that there's so much freedom in that, and I appreciate you doing that, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I just want to say we're not hypocrites because we struggle.
That's right.
Let's keep.
We're just humans.
We're just humans.
That's right, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for coming on,
Yeah,
brother.
thanks for having me.
Okay, and until next time, we are signing off.